Chapter 1939. Cultivators continued to arrive at the Hall of Immortals. There were simply too many people here to celebrate the Red World Fairy's birthday. So many geniuses had come as well. Even if only a portion of the geniuses came to attend this gathering, it was enough to cause a scene of overcrowding. Lin Gongzi, you're here. Hong Xia smiled when she saw Lin Feng. She was so beautiful that she couldn't be compared to him. The Red Dust Immortal sect only recruited female disciples. Therefore, there were beauties everywhere. It was truly a dazzling sight. If one could live here for a long time, it would truly be a man's paradise. Lin Feng cupped his fists towards Fairy Hong Xia. Fairy Hong Xia smiled and said, "Young master, you can go directly to the 18th floor. Senior sister is there to entertain the most distinguished guests." Lin Feng guessed that the most distinguished guests that Fairy Hong Xia mentioned should be some of the people on the Heaven's Pride roll, or some of the people who were qualified to compete for the Heaven's Pride roll. Being entertained by the Red World Fairy's eldest disciple would not be a disgrace to everyone's status. "All right, I'll go up first." Lin Feng smiled and entered the Hall of Immortals. The first floor of the Hall of Immortals was crowded. Many people were gathered together and chatting. There were also people waiting for the elevator to come down. This kind of elevator was set up with a spiritual array. It was very convenient to go to each floor. "Kid, it's you." A cold shout sounded, followed by a cold killing intent that enveloped Lin Feng. Lin Feng turned his head and saw more than 10 cultivators rushing over. The leader was a man in golden robes. He was an expert of the Kinwu people. Back then, Lin Feng was surrounded by more than 20 Kinwu people in Thunder City. Those Kinwu people wanted to kill Lin Feng and steal his treasures. However, they underestimated Lin Feng's strength and were killed by Lin Feng instead. Therefore, Lin Feng had a grudge with the Kinwu people. Lin Feng had some impression of this young master of the Kinwu people. Previously, in Thunder City, he had been surrounded by 2 old ancestor-level experts of the Kinwu people. "It's Jin Pengyu. That guy is the young master of the Kinwu people." "Who is that kid? How did he offend the Kinwu people?" Someone whispered, "I don't know him." Many people shook their heads. "That's Lin Feng, a disciple of the Reincarnation Celestial Sect. He caused a lot of trouble in the Ultimate Ruined Sea. The Supreme Celestial Sect, Fusang Island, the Evil Dragon Palace, and other influential groups are still looking for him. I didn't think he would be so audacious as to come to the Red Dust Celestial Sect to celebrate Master Red Dust's birthday." A cultivator in the crowd recognized Lin Feng and asked, "What? That guy is Lin Feng? I've also heard some things about him." Right now, the Supreme Immortal Sect and other major powers are all offering a huge bounty for his head. This guy should hurry back to the Reincarnation Immortal Sect to avoid the limelight. He's actually still swaggering around outside. His guts are not ordinary. Lin Feng is quite strong. So what if he's strong? Doesn't he know who he's facing? The Supreme Immortal Sect, Fusang Island, and the Evil Dragon Palace are all powerful forces. Who would dare to offend them? It's hard to say if that kid can leave the Red Dust Immortal Sect alive. Many people began to discuss among themselves. Lin Feng looked at the Kinwu people indifferently and said, "I'm here to attend the gathering today. I don't have time to deal with you. You'd better not provoke me. Otherwise, I'll show you what it means to have peach blossoms bloom." Peach blossoms bloom? Many people looked at each other in confusion. They did not know what peach blossoms meant. However, it was definitely not something good. This kid was clearly threatening Jin Pengyu and the others. Many people could not help but mutter among themselves. Wasn't this kid too arrogant? How dare he threaten a group of experts from the Kinwu people alone? "Kid, aren't you afraid of biting your tongue when you talk big?" Jin Pengyu looked at Lin Feng coldly. "How am I talking big? I can deal with a bunch of small fries like you in a few moves. Why would I need to talk big?" Lin Feng said indifferently. Many people's mouths twitched violently. They had thought that Lin Feng was arrogant enough. Who would have thought? Lin Feng was much more arrogant than they had imagined. Jin Pengyu sneered. "Who was the one who turned and ran when he saw us in Thunder City? He was as pathetic as a stray dog. How dare he talk big now? What a joke." Lin Feng rolled his eyes and said, "A group of people and 2 old bastards who have lived for God knows how long are chasing me. Wouldn't I be a fool if I didn't run? Then, he continued, back then, something happened in Thunder City. Many cultivators fought a bloody battle against the creatures of darkness, but you Kinwu people were nowhere to be seen. Where were you hiding? A bunch of cowards. Yet you dare to run in front of me? Jin Pengyu's face turned ugly when he heard Lin Feng mocking the Kinwu people as cowards. During the incident in Thunder City, the Kinwu people had relied on a supreme treasure to deceive everyone and hide in a courtyard. They only came out after the incident was over. When Lin Feng exposed this matter, the Kinwu people were naturally furious. Jin Pingyu said, "Capture this kid. I want him to kneel before me and beg for mercy later." "Yes, young master Yu." Immediately, a middle-aged man stepped forward, Jin Xuani. He's a second firmament celestial god. He's considered a top expert among the side branches of the Kinwu people. Seeing the middle-aged cultivator step forward, many people sucked in a breath of cold air. If a heavenly god expert were to take action, how could Lin Feng fight against him? Swoosh! Jin Xuani attacked. He formed hundreds of seals with his right hand. A ball of flame appeared out of nowhere. Then, it turned into a flaming claw. This divine ability was called the Golden Crow Claw. It could condense a flaming claw to attack. The power of the flaming claw was extremely terrifying. With a light claw, the void was about to be torn apart. Everyone felt the power of the Golden Crow Claw. Many people could not help but exclaim, "You overestimate yourself." Lin Feng sneered and smashed the Golden Crow Claw with a punch. Then, he instantly arrived in front of Jin Xuani. A fist swept toward Jin Xuani. Jin Xuani did not even have the chance to react before Lin Feng's fist landed on his head. Pfft! A bloody hole appeared. Blood immediately gushed out. Jin Xuani fell to the ground on his back. He covered his bleeding wound and screamed in pain. "Attack together!" Jin Pingyu shouted. "I'll smash your peach blossoms until they bloom." Lin Feng curled his lips. His attack speed was too fast. He threw out punch after punch. Pft, pft, pft. Jin Pingyu and the others could not resist at all. Lin Feng punched a bloody hole in their heads. All of them fell to the ground and screamed in pain while covering the bloody hole in their heads. Chapter 1940. So this is the peach blossom? Many people stared at Lin Feng with their mouths agape. No wonder this guy was so arrogant. He was too strong. With such strength, it was only natural for him to be arrogant. He's really powerful. No wonder the Supreme Immortal Sect, Evil Dragon Palace, and Fusang Island have put him on the wanted list, but he's still free and easy. His cultivation is really too strong. He should be able to compete for the prodigy role. Yeah, with such tyrannical strength, he can indeed compete for the prodigy role. Those who want to kill him and take the bounty better behave themselves. This is a life-risking business. Many people discussed in low voices, looking at Lin Feng with reverence. Lin Feng's combat strength was too strong, shocking and moving people. Now you know how strong I am, right? Don't provoke me in the future. Otherwise, I'll beat you until you start doubting your life. Lin Feng looked down at Jin Pingyu condescendingly. Jin Pingyu looked at Lin Feng in horror. Now, he was scared out of his wits by Lin Feng. The combat strength Lin Feng displayed was too tyrannical. Even among the Kinwu people, perhaps only a few monstrous geniuses could deal with Lin Feng. Lin Feng couldn't be bothered with Jin Pingyu and the others. He walked towards the elevator. Everyone took the initiative to open a path for Lin Feng. After Lin Feng boarded the elevator, he pressed the button for the 18th floor. The elevator immediately began to rise rapidly and soon reached the 18th floor. As soon as he walked out of the elevator, he heard a pleasant voice. "Senior brother, the VIP room is from here." She was a beautiful woman with an excellent figure and an exquisite appearance. She stayed at the entrance of the elevator on the 18th floor to guide the arriving cultivators. Lin Feng nodded and followed the female disciple's lead. He then walked inside. Not long after, he saw a VIP room. After entering the VIP lounge, he found that there were already several dozen cultivators sitting there. There were both men and women, and they were all top experts of the younger generation. Seeing Lin Feng enter, Some people recognized that Lin Feng was the cultivator who had clashed with Sikong Yuan of the Great Void Temple yesterday. They all looked at Lin Feng with a playful expression. Sikong Yuan was also seated in the VIP lounge. After seeing Lin Feng, Sikong Yuan's eyes were filled with killing intent. He glared at Lin Feng. He looked as if he wanted to cut Lin Feng into 1,000 pieces. Lin Gongzi is here. And King smiled. Lin Feng cupped his fists towards An King and then found a place to sit down. At that moment, someone asked, "Brother, you look very unfamiliar. May I know who you are?" And King said, "This is Lin Feng and Lin Gongzi from the Reincarnation Celestial Sect." Many people were shocked when they heard the name Lin Feng. A female cultivator asked, "Is he the Lin Feng and Lin Gongzi who caused a huge commotion in the bottomless ocean some time ago?" And King nodded and said, "That's right." After hearing An King's introduction, everyone looked at Lin Feng with a strange expression. The cultivators in the lounge were the direct descendants of various major forces. They were top-notch prodigies, and they were well-informed. They had all heard about what had happened in the bottomless ocean. Lin Feng was able to live a carefree life despite being pursued by the Supreme Celestial Sect, Evil Dragon Palace, Fusang Island, and Thunder Island. It was clear how extraordinary his methods were. "Haha, I've heard so much about you. Why don't we toast Brother Lin together?" A rough-looking young man said with a smile. Lin Feng raised his wine cup and said with a smile, "I should be the one toasting everyone. I'll drink first." As soon as he finished speaking, Lin Feng drained his cup in one gulp. Many people raised their cups one after another and drank the wine in their cups. However, some people sneered and did not give Lin Feng any face. For example, Sikong Yuan had a cold expression on his face. There were also some people who looked indifferent. Lin Feng did not care about their attitude toward him. There were too many people who did not like him. Who did these people think they were? I almost killed an ancestor-level powerhouse, but I didn't expect that. I can crush all of you at any time. You don't give me any face? I don't care about you either. It seems like I'm late. At that moment, a delicate laugh came from outside. Then, a woman walked in. When the woman came in, everyone's gaze was on her. They could not take their eyes off her. No words could describe her. There was no way to describe this woman's beauty. Even if An King was a peerless beauty on the list of beauties. In front of the beauty in front of him, they were all overshadowed. Empress. Lin Feng was slightly surprised. He did not expect the Empress to appear here. The Empress was born with a charm that could turn all living things upside down. Back then, the Empress was the #1 beauty in Tianwu continent. Now, the Empress had come to Jiuzhou. Now, she had become the #1 beauty in Jiuzhou. Previously, in the depths of the ice field, the lost world appeared. Lin Feng had seen the Empress when they were fighting for the dragon crystal rice. However, in the blink of an eye, 6 to 7 years had passed. Time really flowed like water. In the blink of an eye, so many years had passed. It's that female pirate. That female pirate is really beautiful. That female pirate is called Shui Zhonghua, right? She calls herself the Empress. It is said that the beauty chart has been changed. The Empress is now the #1 woman on the beauty chart. After seeing the Empress, many people whispered to each other. Every man looked at the Empress with a burning gaze. The women sitting here were all peerless beauties. However, women like to compare their beauty the most. Therefore, these women could not help but be jealous of the Empress. Lin Feng muttered in his heart. He remembered that the last time he saw the Empress, she did not seem to be a pirate anymore. Now, he heard the whispers of the people around him. The Empress seemed to have returned to her old profession. And King smiled and said, "Fairy Shui, your arrival really brings light to our humble dwelling." The Empress smiled slightly. The surrounding male cultivators were immediately mesmerized. Lin Feng did not look at the Empress. He knew how charming this woman was. This woman could even charm women, let alone men. Her smile was very alluring. The 6 palaces were colorless. This saying was referring to women like the Empress. "I prefer people to call me the Empress," the Empress said with a smile. "Ha ha ha ha, Empress of the Ocean, I didn't expect to see you here. You severely injured my junior brother some time ago. Now that I see you, I'll capture you and bring you back to the sect. I'll make you serve my junior brother day and night until he recovers." An arrogant laugh came from outside. Then, a man shrouded in golden light stepped in. This man was tall and burly, and his body was covered in golden light. It made him look like a war god from the ancient times. Swallowing the 8 desolates, who else but me can do it? Chapter 1941. Chi Tianlei. Many people were shocked when they saw the man. Chi Tianlei was a famous figure, an expert of the Upper Immortal Sect. The Upper Immortal Sect was second only to the 10 Great Immortal Sects. Within the sect, there were giant god-level experts overseeing it. Chi Tianlei was one of the leading figures of the Upper Immortal Sect's younger generation. He cultivated the Golden Emperor's god-splitting art, which had an extremely powerful attack power. He was definitely a tyrant among the younger generation. He had the strength to compete for the genius role. "Who are you? Do I know you? Do I know your junior brother?" The Empress looked at Chi Tianlei indifferently. Many people couldn't help but laugh. Chi Tianlei appeared as if he was the only one who could. Who would have thought? The Empress didn't even know him. What a disgrace. Chi Tianlei's face twitched violently, and his body trembled with anger. With a gloomy expression, he asked, "Do you know Pu Yangshi?" The Empress said, "So the junior brother you were talking about is Pu Yangshi. Back in the southern Immortal Sea domain. He actually wanted to make me his woman. Who does he think he is? Is he worthy? You're just a female pirate. How dare you say my junior brother is not worthy?" Chi Tianlei's expression was indifferent. He stepped forward, and the aura emanating from his body grew stronger. Clearly, Chi Tianlei wanted to attack the Empress. "Fellow Taoist Chi." "Wait," Enking said, wanting to stop the battle. Chi Tianlei couldn't help but frown slightly. If Enking stopped him, this battle, he would have to stop it. Who would have thought that the Empress would say, "Farian, this person is recklessly looking for trouble with me. I don't think we need to wait until after the Immortal Sovereign's birthday banquet. Let's settle this today to liven things up before the Immortal Sovereign's birthday banquet." And King didn't say anything after hearing the Empress's words. Arrogant. Chi Tianlei's expression was indifferent, and the aura emanating from his body grew even more terrifying. Chi Tianlei was indeed an extremely terrifying figure. The aura emanating from his body made even Lin Feng wary. If he didn't use the Emperor Bone, Lin Feng had the impression that if he fought against Chi Tianlei, he wouldn't be able to defeat him. Chi Tianlei's combat strength soared to the extreme. He leaped out and threw a punch at the Empress. Ha 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 ha. The Empress let out a charming laugh. Facing Chi Tianlei's attack, she actually didn't dodge or evade. Everyone was very confused. He didn't understand why the Empress didn't retaliate. Could it be that he was just going to stand there and wait to be captured? Lin Feng couldn't help but frown slightly. The Empress wasn't a simple character. Back then, when he was still very weak, the Empress had already become one of the 9 prefectures pirate kings of the Tianwu continent. He was also the youngest pirate king. The origin of the Empress was very mysterious, and her means were also very strange. He was doing very well in the Sky Martial continent. Everyone's expression changed at the mention of it. Lin Feng didn't believe that the Empress was someone who would surrender without putting up a fight. The Empress definitely had some powerful techniques that she was going to use. Everyone looked at the Empress. Chi Tianlei's attack was about to hit the Empress. Right at this moment, inside the Empress's body, a terrifying aura spread out. Domineering aura. Lin Feng looked at the Empress in shock. It was definitely domineering. The moment the Empress activated her domineering aura, he could sense it. Moreover, Lin Feng actually discovered it. When the Empress activated her domineering aura, the supreme domineering aura in his body also activated on its own, as if it was about to break out of his body. Lin Feng hurriedly suppressed the supreme domineering aura in his body, to be able to cause a change in his supreme domineering aura. This meant that the Empress's domineering aura was probably not inferior to his domineering aura. Could it be that the Empress also had 9 colors of supreme domineering aura? Thinking of this, Lin Feng couldn't help but be shocked. Boom. In the next moment, inside the Empress's body, the 9-colored supreme domineering aura seeped out of his body. It instantly enveloped Qi Tianlei. Although Qi Tianlei was powerful, but he was still unable to withstand the nine-colored supreme domineering aura. That is, oh my God, how is this possible? Exclamations of surprise rang out one after another. One by one, cultivators stood up in shock. The nine-colored supreme domineering aura. This was the legendary domineering aura. The domineering aura itself was extremely rare. Moreover, or was it the nine-colored supreme domineering aura? Everyone's face was filled with deep shock. They simply couldn't believe their eyes. And at this moment, under the pressure of the supreme domineering aura, all of Qi Tianlei's attacks directly disintegrated. With a plop, his knees went weak. He directly knelt on the ground. No, this is absolutely impossible. Qi Tianlei roared. His originally handsome face was now contorted in disgust. He couldn't accept all of this. He was a high and mighty figure before. Now, he was actually forced to kneel. This humiliation. To Qi Tianlei, this was absolutely unacceptable. He struggled violently, but he couldn't break free at all. No one could break free from the supreme domineering aura. The Empress stood there. It made many people feel a deep sense of fear. This woman was really too terrifying. In time, she might become the Red World Fairy. Amazing, really amazing. I didn't expect that other than me, there would be a second person who would always have the supreme domineering aura. And this person is actually the Empress. Lin Feng couldn't help but glare at the Empress's charming body. When my strength increases, I will also take you into my harem. Of course, he could only think about this in his heart. He would never dare to say it in front of the Empress. If the Empress heard it, wouldn't she skin him alive? It seems that your strength is still lacking by a lot. The Empress smiled faintly and directly lifted Qi Tianlei up. Then, she walked toward the window. Seeing this scene, many people's eyelids twitched violently. Everyone thought of a possibility. What are you doing? Qi Tianlei's face changed drastically. Throwing you out. The Empress said indifferently. Empress, let's talk things out. Qi Tianlei's face turned green. The crowd below was bustling, and there were constantly geniuses coming to the banquet. If he was thrown out, he would be disgraced. He would become the object of everyone's ridicule. The Empress didn't care about Qi Tianlei at all. She sealed Qi Tianlei's magic and threw him out of the window on the 18th floor. Bang! Qi Tianlei fell from the sky, creating a deep crater on the ground. Of course, an expert of his level wouldn't fall to his death, but it attracted the attention of countless people. I think he was thrown from the 18th floor. Who is this person? It's Qi Tianlei. Oh my God! Qi Tianlei was thrown down from the 18th floor. Who is so cruel to be able to suppress Qi Tianlei and throw him down? Countless people cried out in shock and pointed at Qi Tianlei. Qi Tianlei was so angry that he spat out a mouthful of blood. Chapter 1942. The Empress walked back with a smile and said, Everyone, you don't mind if I toss that annoying fellow out, right? Everyone smiled bitterly. Would it matter if we minded? He had already been tossed out. Wasn't it too insincere to ask for their opinions? Of course not. Lin Feng said with a smile. Little Feng Feng, you're here too. The Empress seemed very happy to see Lin Feng. The two of them were very familiar with each other. They had known each other for so many years, and their friendship was very deep. However, Lin Feng still hadn't found a way to hook up with the Empress. It wasn't a big deal to flirt with the Empress. If he really wanted to get the Empress, it wouldn't be easy. The Empress wasn't someone that just any man could subdue. This could be seen from the fact that she called herself the Empress. The Empress. She was definitely a woman who worshipped women's rights. Such a woman. Unless that man was more powerful than her. Otherwise, it would be a fool's dream to subdue her. Little Feng Feng? Everyone looked at Lin Feng and the Empress in confusion. That was how the Empress addressed Lin Feng. It made everyone's imagination run wild. Lin Feng smiled and said, The Empress and I are old lovers. Old lovers? Everyone began to shout. The male cultivators looked at Lin Feng with envy and jealousy. They all wanted to skin Lin Feng alive. The female cultivator looked at Lin Feng and muttered in her heart. What was so special about this Lin Feng? How could he subdue a woman like the Empress? The Empress couldn't help but roll her eyes at Lin Feng and said, "Little Feng Feng, you're talking nonsense again. Are you looking for a beating?" Lin Feng coughed and said, "I was too hasty and said the wrong thing. The Empress is an old friend of mine, not an old lover. Haha, everyone, please don't misunderstand." The Empress didn't refute Lin Feng's claim that she was his confidant. She came to a table beside Lin Feng and sat down cross-legged. When the male cultivators heard that the two of them were not lovers, they actually felt a sense of joy. He reckoned that Rinpochian had some ideas about the Empress. On the other hand, the female cultivators were muttering in their hearts. They actually hoped that the Empress was already taken. This would make them feel that the Empress wasn't a woman whom they had to look up to. Everyone had a good chat at this gathering. Many people were asking and keying about the Hongjun training hall. First, there was Hongjun and the Hotian. Before heaven and earth were created, Hongjun had already been born. Even someone like Panga was only a disciple of Hongjun. Therefore, the attractiveness of the Hongjun dojo was unimaginable. Everyone hoped to gain something from the Hongjun training ground. Of course, the prerequisite was to be able to enter the Hongjun dojo. Some of these people would definitely be eliminated. Enqing briefly talked about the Hongjun Taoist Hall and her impression, but did not say too much. Because of some specific things, they needed to enter and comprehend it themselves. The rise of the Red World Fairy was inextricably linked to the Hongjun training ground. However, it didn't mean that anyone who entered the Hongjun training ground would gain something. Take the disciples of the Red World Fairy as an example. The 36 disciples of the Red World Fairy had all entered the Hongjun training ground to gain enlightenment one after another. However, most of them didn't gain anything. Perhaps it was due to the lack of luck. After the banquet ended, Lin Feng and the Empress went back together. Lin Feng said, "I heard that you went to the southern immortal sea domain to become a pirate?" The Empress said, "Don't listen to those people's nonsense. I'm just looking for something in the southern immortal sea domain. If anyone provokes me, I'll rob them while I'm at it." Lin Feng couldn't help but be speechless for a moment. The Empress was such a charming woman, and there were countless people who wanted her. He reckoned that many people had been robbed by the Empress. This was no different from an island. "What are you looking for?" Lin Feng asked curiously. "It's a secret for now. If I have a use for you in the future, I'll contact you." The Empress said. Lin Feng nodded. When they returned to their residence, the two parted ways. Lin Feng returned to his residence, took a bath, put on a bathrobe, and lay comfortably on the soft bed. What a pleasure. It was a pity that he didn't have a beauty by his side. If he had a beauty in his arms, it would definitely be an emperor-level pleasure. Bang, bang, bang. At that moment, someone knocked on the door. "Senior brother Lin, are you back?" Li Yingdia's voice came from outside. Lin Feng was planning to find time to ask about the matter of Cui Hongxiu. He didn't expect that Li Yingdai would come at this time. He got up and opened the door for her, allowing her to enter. When she saw that Lin Feng was wearing a bathrobe, Li Yingdia's face couldn't help but blush. Lin Feng was a carefree person, so he didn't care about such details. Li Yingdai asked, "Senior brother Lin, did my master look for you?" Lin Feng nodded. "Yes. Actually, there's something I haven't told you all this time. Since you're here today, I don't want to keep it a secret anymore." "What is it?" Li Yingdai asked curiously. Lin Feng said, "Your master is very hostile towards me. I don't think I've offended her, so I don't know why she's so hostile towards me and even wants to kill me. Do you know the reason?" After hearing Lin Feng's question, Li Yingdai lowered her head, her expression uncertain. She bit her lip, seemingly wanting to say something, but she was in a state of extreme hesitation and conflict. Lin Feng asked, "Is there something you can't tell me?" Li Yingdai said, "It's all because of me. I won't see you again. Senior brother Lin, I'm leaving." After saying that, Li Yingdai walked out. Clearly, this matter wasn't as simple as it seemed. How could Lin Feng allow Li Yingdai to leave just like that? Now that he knew that Duan Hongxiu had the heavenly catastrophe physique, Duan Hongxiu was hostile towards him. Lin Feng had to figure out what was going on. Moreover, so what if Li Yingdai left? Even if she didn't want to see him in the future, he was afraid that it would be difficult to change Duan Hongxiu's determination to kill him. Therefore, Lin Feng grabbed Li Yingdia's hand and pulled her over. Li Yingdai staggered slightly and fell directly into Lin Feng's arms, while Lin Feng held Li Yingdia's small waist. Such intimate contact made Li Yingdai blush. She wanted to push Lin Feng away, but deep in her heart, she was reluctant to do so. But in the end, reason prevailed over the thoughts in his heart. She pushed Lin Feng away and lowered her head, not daring to look at Lin Feng. She bit her lips and almost begged, "Senior brother, I beg you, let me go. I really can't say anything. If Master finds out, she will kill you." Lin Feng raised his brows slightly. He increasingly felt that this matter wasn't as simple as it seemed. Chapter 1943. Lin Feng said, "Duan Hongxiu already wanted to kill me when we were on the Outer Realm Star. Do you think that if you don't tell me the reason, or don't meet me again, Duan Hongxiu will let me go? Yingdai, you're too naive." Lin Feng didn't call her junior sister Li. Instead, he called her Yingdai. Li Yingdai immediately felt very happy, and her thoughts of leaving wavered. Lin Feng said, "Yingdai, you know Duan Hongxiu better than I do, and you know her personality. So, I need to know why she wants to kill me. That way, I can be on guard against her." Li Yingdai bit her lip and said, "I'll go back and tell Master that I won't see you again in the future, and she won't come looking for you. She definitely won't kill you." Lin Feng said, "Fate should be in your own hands, not in the hands of others. You and I are friends, so why can't we meet? What if I miss you? Will senior brother miss me?" Li Yingdai shyly looked at Lin Feng. "Of course." Lin Feng reached out and caressed Li Yingdia's delicate face. Li Yingdai didn't avoid his touch, and she looked straight into Lin Feng's eyes. After a long time, she sighed and said, "If I tell you, I'm afraid we'll become strangers." This was probably a knot in Li Yingdia's heart. She was afraid of telling him this. Thus, he couldn't force Li Yingdai to tell him this. Instead, he should comfort her and encourage her. Lin Feng said, "Don't worry. No matter what happens, your position in my heart won't change." Li Yingdai bit her lip, still hesitating. She saw Lin Feng's encouraging gaze. In the end, she gritted her teeth and said, I'm Master's cultivation furnace. Master doesn't allow me to have intimate relations with other men, so she kills every man who comes close to me." "A cultivation furnace? Your master is a woman, so she should be looking for a man as a cultivation furnace, right? Why would she look for you?" Lin Feng said in disbelief. Li Yingdia's face was so red that it looked like blood could drip from it. Lin Feng instantly understood what was going on. Li Yingdia's cultivation furnace wasn't actually a cultivation furnace. She was referring to a cultivation furnace. Li Yingdai was a woman, and her personality was not open-minded. In fact, she had a very conservative personality. Therefore, some words. She couldn't say it. If Lin Feng wasn't mistaken, Duan Hongxiu was probably like Madame Qi. This was a personality flaw. It was just that this kind of personality flaw was destined to hurt some normal people. Li Yingdia's. She was a normal person. She also longed for love, longed for friendship. Obviously, these were all extras to her to Hongxiu. Duan Hongxiu was her master in name. Hongxiu, S.S. Stolet, S. Hongxiu, S. Hong S. Teat halves to have A.A., S. Hong's Ido E. I. Li Yingdia's biggest secret had been exposed, and she was so anxious that she was about to cry. Lin Feng said, "Silly girl, don't worry. You'll always be that innocent girl in my eyes." Li Yingdai nodded. Lin Feng asked, "Have you ever thought of getting rid of Duan Hongxiu? I've been poisoned by a heart-devouring insect, and I won't be able to get rid of it for the rest of my life." Li Yingdai sighed. "What? A heart-devouring insect? That vicious woman." Lin Feng's face turned gloomy. He had learned about heart-devouring insect from Wu Qingqing. It was an extremely vicious insect poison. Once a person was infected with the heart-devouring goo, there was almost no cure. This person could only be hellbent on being controlled by others. "I don't blame Master. I'm an orphan. If not for Master, I would have died long ago. The only reason I'm still alive is because of Master," Li Yingdai said. The master-disciple relationship between Li Yingdai and Duan Hongxiu as well as the fact that Duan Hongxiu had poisoned Li Yingdai with heart-devouring insect, was too complicated. It was not something that could be explained in a few words. Li Yingdai said, "Senior brother, I'm going back. You should rest early too." Lin Feng grabbed Li Yingdai's hand and pulled her closer. He felt sorry for Li Yingdai. He wanted to help Li Yingdai get rid of Duan Hongxiu's control. He wanted to help Li Yingdai get rid of the heart-devouring insect. Although Duan Hongxiu was Li Yingdai's master, she shouldn't have controlled Li Yingdai. Lin Feng didn't say anything about what she had done to Li Yingdai, but at the very least, he should give Li Yingdai a free identity. Duan Hongxiu was a vicious woman. Lin Feng felt more and more disgusted. "Senior brother." Feeling the warmth of Lin Feng's hand, Li Yingdai's face couldn't help but turn red. "Don't worry, I'll set you free. I promise," Lin Feng said solemnly. Li Yingdai looked at Lin Feng's serious expression. Tears flowed down her cheeks uncontrollably. She took the initiative to bite Lin Feng's lips. Late at night, Li Yingdai had just left Lin Feng's place. When she returned to her residence, she found Duan Hongxiu in her room. "Master." Li Yingdai quickly bowed to Duan Hongxiu. Duan Hongxiu asked with a gloomy expression, "Where have you been?" "I was chatting with a few sisters I just met. We hit it off so well that I forgot the time," Li Yingdai whispered. She wasn't a liar, so she was obviously embarrassed to tell such a lie. Duan Hongxiu came to Li Yingdai's side and pinched her snow-white chin. She looked at Li Yingdai. Two strange lights flashed in her eyes. Then Li Yingdai's eyes became confused. Soul search. Duan Hongxiu actually used it on Li Yingdai. Her disciple used the soul search technique. One had to know. This soul search technique. It could easily hurt a person's soul. Duan Hongxiu saw many scenes. The unbearable scenes made Duan Hongxiu almost go crazy. She slapped Li Yingdai's face hard. She slapped Li Yingdai to the ground. Li Yingdai also woke up. She covered her face and shivered. "Bitch, master didn't treat you well? You actually dared to betray your master." Duan Hongxiu's eyes were filled with killing intent. She was an extremely perverted woman, a woman with a twisted mind. She didn't know what had happened in the past that made her become so perverted, so twisted, so crazy, and so vicious. Li Yingdai saw that Duan Hongxiu already knew what had happened between her and Lin Feng. Her face became pale. She knelt beside Duan Hongxiu and begged, "Master, it's all my fault. I'm willing to die as an apology. Please don't make things difficult for Lin Gongzi. You're still pleading for him at this time. I've really doted on you all these years." Duan Hongxiu looked coldly at Li Yingdai and then left. Li Yingdai chased after her with a pale face. Chapter 1944. The Red Dust Immortal sect became more and more lively. Because the Red World Fairy's birthday was getting closer and closer, countless people were extremely curious about this legendary figure. They wondered what this legendary figure looked like. The Red World Fairy was already the strongest person in the 9 states more than 3,000 years ago. In the blink of an eye, more than 3,000 years had passed. No one knew what level the Red World Fairy's cultivation had reached. The Red World Fairy was now only 4,000 years old. Speaking of which, in the world of cultivators, 4,000 years old was really too young. Any random person in the world of cultivators would probably have a lifespan of tens of thousands of years, or even hundreds of thousands of years. Those heavenly god realm experts, old ancestor realm experts, and even old antique realm experts could live for hundreds of thousands, millions, or even tens of millions of years. Although the Red World Fairy was very young, obviously, no one would really treat her as a young person. The world of cultivators was a world where strength was respected. One's own strength determined everything. The Red World Fairy's strength determined the Red World Fairy's status. Even those old antiques who had lived for tens of millions of years, but in front of the Red World Fairy, they had to be respectful and careful. Some people said that the Red World Fairy was the most likely person to become a great emperor in the post-Archean era of the 9 states' great world. Of course, it was not without reason. The days were approaching. For the next few days, Lin Feng did not see Li Yingdai. He went to Li Yingdai's residence to look for her, but he did not find her. He couldn't help but frown slightly. Later, he asked Fairy Hongxia and found out that Li Yingdai seemed to have moved to Duan Hongxiu's place. Thinking of Duan Hongxiu, that vicious woman, Lin Feng felt very uncomfortable. In order to get Li Yingdai out of Duan Hongxiu's control, he had to help Li Yingdai get rid of the heart-biting goo. Goo poison was actually not a poison. It was a kind of insect. Therefore, Lin Feng's white jade toad could not get rid of the heart-biting goo. There was almost no antidote for the heart-devouring goo insect, but nothing was absolute. Perhaps there was an antidote, but outsiders did not know about it. Lin Feng did not know if Duan Hongxiu had the antidote, but even if Duan Hongxiu had the antidote, he would not give it to him. Therefore, Lin Feng had to think of another way. He thought of the evil goo sect. The goo evil sect that Wu Qingqing belonged to was a branch of the goo evil sect in the 9 prefectures. This force was an evil force and was most proficient in refining all kinds of goo poison. However, he did not know if there was a way to neutralize the heart-devouring goo. However, Lin Feng also knew that the evil goo sect was difficult to deal with. Not a single one of these evil forces was a good person. But no matter how difficult it was to deal with the goo evil sect, Lin Feng planned to find an opportunity to go to the goo evil sect. Then, he would discuss the cooperation with the goo evil sect. As time passed, finally, the 4,000th birthday celebration of Venerable Red Dust had finally begun. The central square was packed with people. This time, more than 1 million people entered the Red Dust Immortal Sect to celebrate the Red World Fairy's birthday. Apart from the Supreme Immortal Sect, the top forces in the 9 prefectures were basically all here. There were so many forces in the 9 prefectures. Lin Feng was dazzled. Although he had never heard of many forces, those forces were unimaginably terrifying. For example, there was the Wilderness God tribe. There were more than 10 people from this tribe. They were all tall and burly, like savages, and had a valiant aura. It was said that this tribe fed on gods and were incomparably ferocious. They were one of the primitive ancient tribes that had been passed down since the immortal ancient era. No one dared to provoke them. In the past, a top family second only to the 10 great immortal sects provoked this tribe. They were wiped out overnight. There were hundreds of thousands of people in the family. All of them died overnight. From this, one could see how terrifying the Wilderness God tribe was. This tribe was very arrogant and usually did not interact with other forces. Perhaps only someone as powerful as the Red World Fairy could do so. Only someone like her could make the people of the Wilderness God tribe bow their arrogant heads and submit willingly. There were also some ancient races similar to the Wilderness God tribe. All of them were incomparably terrifying and intimidating. Originally, many of these races were legendary races. But now that it was Venerable Hong Qin's birthday, they all came out of seclusion to congratulate him. This kind of scene was extremely shocking. In the past, Lin Feng had heard that when the great emperor appeared, all races would submit. At that time, he didn't quite understand what it meant. Now that he saw the Red World Fairy celebrating her birthday and countless forces coming to congratulate her, he more or less understood what it meant when the great emperor appeared and all races submitted. Such a powerhouse. It was enough to make any ancient force submit. The entire square was shaking. Everyone was waiting for the arrival of the Red World Fairy. Suddenly, the cries of dragons and phoenixes resounded through the world. Immediately after, everyone saw a heavenly dragon and a phoenix flying over. The sky dragon was in existence on the same level as the divine dragon in the dragon race. Its bloodline was abnormally powerful, and it was extremely rare. It was very rare to see a sky dragon now. As for the phoenix, this was a famous sacred beast, in existence on the same level as the true dragon. Dragon and phoenix were auspicious. It meant peace. It's the sky dragon divine ancestor and the phoenix old mother. They are both good friends of the Red World Fairy. Now, they are also here to congratulate her on her birthday. Someone immediately exclaimed. The sky dragon divine ancestor had cultivated for 18,720,000 years and was the top powerhouse among the overseas rogue cultivators. The phoenix old mother had cultivated for 23,910,000 years. In the entire 9 provinces, he was definitely one of the oldest existences. These top powerhouses interacted with each other. Friendship was not based on age. Friendship was based on cultivation. Cultivation was strong enough. Even if you were just a teenager, you could become friends with those old antiques who had lived for tens of millions of years. Experts like the Sky Dragon Divine Ancestor and the Phoenix Old Mother appeared together and displayed the auspicious meaning of the dragon and phoenix. The Red World Fairy really has a lot of face. Lin Feng couldn't help but sigh. Look, the Red World Fairy is here. Someone suddenly pointed into the distance. Everyone looked over. They saw a young girl walking over. The young girl looked to be only 17 or 18 years old. She was innocent and wore a snow-white dress. She looked like a fairy born between heaven and earth. There were also a few bells hanging on her body. When she walked, the tinkling sounds were very pleasant. When they saw the young girl, everyone had become incomparable. That young girl, could she be the Red World Fairy? He really looked too young. Of course, the Red World Fairy. She was indeed young. However, no one would have thought that the Red World Fairy was a young girl who looked to be 17 or 18 years old. A golden divine throne descended from the sky. The young girl walked over and sat on the golden divine throne. Her quick-witted eyes looked at everyone. She clearly looked so harmless, delicate, and charming. However, when she looked over, no one dared to look at her. Many people couldn't help but want to kneel on the ground and worship her. Chapter 1945. Lin Feng lowered his head, but his heart was deeply shocked. The Red World Fairy was truly terrifying. With just a glance, no one dared to look at her. Under her seemingly harmless appearance, but she possessed unimaginable strength. What shocked Lin Feng the most was that when he lowered his head, he had already forgotten what the Red World Fairy looked like. Lin Feng had heard the Demon Lord say before that some top experts had heaven-defying means. If the other party did not want you to remember their appearance, even if you saw them 10,000 times, you would not be able to remember their appearance. See you next time. Just like strangers. Lin Feng originally did not believe the Demon Lord's words, but now he believed it. This was because he had indeed forgotten what immortal venerable Hong Chun looked like. It seemed that the Red World Fairy did not want those who had seen her to remember her appearance. Lin Feng muttered in his heart. The Red World Fairy's ability was simply too powerful. If only he knew how to do it. It was simply a weapon to pretend to be a pig to eat a tiger. Let's begin the birthday celebration, the Red World Fairy said with a smile. Her voice was clear and melodious. It was very pleasant to hear. Congratulations, Master. Enjoy heavenly blessings forever and live as long as the heavens. Enqing led several generations of disciples of the Red Dust Immortal sect to take the lead in congratulating the Red World Fairy. Lin Feng wailed in his heart. Big sister, aren't you too good at flattering? That was my line. Now, you've stolen my lines. What do you want me to say later? After Enqing and the others finished their birthday celebration, they presented a gift they had prepared. It was a red flame immortal herb, which was very rare and had a medicinal age of 200,000 years. Then, it was the Red World Fairy's two best friends, Divine Ancestor Tianlong and Old Mother Phoenix. Now, Divine Ancestor Tianlong and Old Mother Phoenix had already transformed into human form. Divine Ancestor Tianlong had transformed into a burly old man, and Old Mother Phoenix had transformed into a woman. Congratulations to the Immortal Venerable for your longevity and good health. Become an empress as soon as possible. Sky Dragon Divine Ancestor and Old Mother Phoenix said at the same time. Lin Feng wailed inwardly, this is what I wanted to say as well. Can you not steal my words? Right now, Lin Feng really wanted to cry but had no tears. He had finally thought of some good congratulatory words, but all of them had been snatched away. After the congratulatory speech, Sky Dragon Divine Ancestor and Old Mother Phoenix each took out their own gifts. Sky Dragon Divine Ancestor took out a Buddhist scripture and said with a smile, Immortal Sovereign, I know you like to study Buddhist scriptures. This scripture is called Mystic Dharma Lotus Scripture. It's an innate spiritual scripture that evolved from heaven and earth. Before the ancestors of Buddhism became Buddha, they also gained enlightenment from reading this scripture and finally became Buddha. The content of this sutra is supreme. It clearly states that no matter rich or poor, everyone can become a Buddha. Therefore, The mystic Dharma Lotus Sutra is also known as the King of Sutras. The Red World Fairy smiled. Thank you for your gift, Taoist Sky Dragon. Venerable Immortal. Do you still remember the snow immortal tea we tasted in the snowy mountains of the western region? It takes 100,000 years for it to sprout, another 100,000 years for it to bear leaves, and another 100,000 years for it to ripen. All in all, it takes 300,000 years. Moreover, this tea only grows in the void in the depths of the snowy mountains. It's almost impossible to obtain it. Fortunately, the heavens do not disappoint me. I've collected some snow immortal tea and brought it to you today. Old Mother Phoenix took out a white jade box. The snow immortal tea was probably inside. Thank you, Taoist Phoenix. Venerable Red Dust smiled faintly. I, Xianzong of the Reincarnation Immortal Sect, represent the Reincarnation Immortal Sovereign and the Reincarnation Immortal Sect to congratulate the Red World Fairy on her invincible divine skills. At this moment, one of the patriarchs of the Reincarnation Immortal Sect came forward to congratulate her. Lin Feng felt a little embarrassed. This patriarch of the Reincarnation Immortal Sect was really good at flattery. However, everyone seemed to think that it was only natural. The Red World Fairy was worthy of any flattery. After the patriarch of the Reincarnation Immortal Sect presented his birthday gift, then the Feather Immortal Sect, Heavenly Tao Immortal Sect, Sunset Immortal Sect, Undying Immortal Sect, Red Dust Immortal Sect, 10,000 Arts Immortal Sect, Sword Saint Immortal Sect, and Longevity Immortal Sect came to congratulate the Red World Fairy. Then, some mysterious ancient clans came. For example, the Wild Devourer God clan. Then, some ancient sects, dynasties, clans, and other major forces came. Clearly, the forces that came to attend the birthday celebration were very orderly. Usually, some of the more powerful forces came to congratulate her. After these major forces came some powerful itinerant cultivators. Then, it was the younger generation of cultivators who came to congratulate the Red World Fairy. The Red World Fairy seemed to pay more attention to the younger generation of cultivators. When the younger generation of cultivators came to congratulate her, she could not help but look up. Groups after groups of cultivators from the younger generation came forward to congratulate Immortal Venerable Hong Chun. It was unrealistic to congratulate Venerable Hong Chun on his birthday alone. Chapter 1946. Many people were muttering in their hearts. Everyone guessed that the Netherworld Demon Emperor was not in seclusion at all. This time, the Netherworld Demon Emperor did not come. Instead, he sent the evil prince with a gift. In fact, the Netherworld Demon Emperor had calculated the character of the Red World Fairy. Since young Master Xie had come to offer gifts, Immortal Venerable Hong Chun would reward him. As expected, Immortal Venerable Hong Chun had really given him a reward. That was the Law of the Giant God. It was incomparably precious. Once the Law of the Giant God was activated, its power would be unimaginable. Just thinking about it made people feel incomparably excited. However, the Law of the Giant God belonged to the evil prince. Everyone could only covet it. After Xiaoyu Gongzi and the others left, many cultivators came forward to offer their blessings. Lin Feng did not see Shui Linglong. It seemed that Shui Linglong did not come. His senior sister Shui Linglong was always so mysterious. She was definitely not a simple character. It was said that she was the reincarnation of an expert. Was it true? Lin Feng did not know. However, he only knew that Shui Linglong's cultivation was unfathomable. Among the young cultivators who came to offer gifts, Lin Feng saw many top experts. However, no one could attract the attention of the Red World Fairy like the evil prince. The reason why the evil prince attracted the attention of the Red World Fairy was because of the universal landscape chess. That was a supreme treasure refined by the emperor. Although it was not an emperor weapon, its power was unimaginable. This time, the Netherworld Demon Emperor had planned all of this behind the scenes. In order to let his son attract the attention of the Red World Fairy, he had put in a lot of effort. However, it would be difficult for others to take out such a treasure. Naturally, it would be difficult to attract the attention of the Red World Fairy. Lin Feng lowered his head and pondered. He also had many treasures on him. He also had treasures that were more precious than the universal landscape chess. For example, the 9 demons painting, the heaven-swallowing jar, and other treasures. However, it was not realistic for Lin Feng to take out these treasures and give them to the Red World Fairy, because these treasures were very important to Lin Feng. What should I give him? Lin Feng couldn't help but frown. Groups of cultivators went to offer their blessings and gifts. Finally, it was Lin Feng's turn. A group of a few hundred people flew over and shouted respectfully in unison, "Congratulations, venerable immortal, for being as blessed as the East Sea and living as long as the South Mountain." After saying this, Lin Feng almost cried. All the good birthday speeches had been said by the people in front of him. All that was left was this retarded birthday speech. Fortunately, the Red World Fairy did not mind. Everyone went to the female disciple of the Red Dust Immortal sect who was in charge of collecting gifts. Lin Feng was the only one who didn't move. The Red World Fairy frowned slightly. "Master, this is Lin Feng, a disciple of the Reincarnation Immortal sect." And King said, the Red World Fairy had never heard of Lin Feng. Perhaps she had heard of Lin Feng, but she did not choose to remember Lin Feng. For an expert like the Red World Fairy, she could remember some things if she wanted to, and forget some things if she wanted to. Ordinary things. After she heard it, she would choose to forget it. Perhaps one day she would hear about Lin Feng, but for an expert like her, no matter what Lin Feng did, it was a small matter. It wasn't worth remembering. Now that she heard King introduce Lin Feng, the Red World Fairy nodded and looked at Lin Feng. Her eyes were dim, and no one knew what she was thinking. Countless people around them were talking about it. No one thought that someone would dare to stay without the permission of the Red World Fairy. If he angered the Red World Fairy, it would be terrible. Isn't that Lin Feng? An elder of the Reincarnation Immortal sect said. A group of people from the Reincarnation Immortal sect had gathered here to celebrate the Red World Fairy's birthday. There were about 20 people, including the elders of the Reincarnation Immortal sect, some Grand Elders, and Patriarch Xuanzang. But at this moment, everyone's faces were dark. These were the higher-ups of the Reincarnation Immortal sect, and they had heard about the trouble Lin Feng had caused in the Ultimate Ruins. It was one thing to cause trouble in the Ultimate Ruins, but in front of the Red World Fairy, he could not mess around. She was the most powerful expert in the 9 states world. If he acted rashly in front of the Red World Fairy, if he really angered the Red World Fairy, even if the sect master came, he could not save him. Some people were worried about Lin Feng, while others were gloating. They could not wait for Lin Feng to be slapped to death by the Red World Fairy. For example, the cultivators of the Dragon Blood City, the Evil Dragon Palace, Fusang Island, and other forces were all praying. In front of so many people, Lin Feng was extremely calm and collected. Over the years, Lin Feng had seen too much. Facing a powerful figure like immortal Venerable Hong Chun, after getting over his initial nervousness, he became much calmer. This boldness. Quite a number of people were very impressed. One had to know that many old ancestor-level experts trembled in front of immortal Venerable Hong Chun. "I am Lin Feng, disciple of Master Turtle of the Reincarnation Immortal sect. Greetings, celestial supremacy." Lin Feng bowed to the Red World Fairy. At this moment, he began to bluff. Although Master Turtle, this cheap master, was not very reliable. Master Turtle was still an expert of the Black Tortoise clan. That was a holy beast. Hearing that Lin Feng was actually Master Turtle's disciple, many experts of the major forces had black lines on their faces. It was as if they had thought of something unbearable. "Oh, Master Turtle's disciple? I've met your master a few times before." The Red World Fairy raised her eyelids and said. Lin Feng muttered in his heart, "Such an unreliable cheap master. The people in contact with all needed others to look up to." It was incredible. A thought flashed through his mind, and Lin Feng hurriedly said, "This junior has also heard Master mention the immortal sovereign. How shameless!" Many people cursed Lin Feng for being shameless in their hearts. Although the Red World Fairy had met Master Turtle a few times, the Red World Fairy and Master Turtle did not have much of a friendship. Because as everyone knew, there were only a few experts who had a relationship with the Red World Fairy. Perhaps Master Turtle and the Red World Fairy would nod at each other when they met, but at most, They would only nod at each other. Would Master Turtle care about the Red World Fairy? Wasn't this nonsense? Many people slandered in their hearts. Lin Feng obviously wanted to use Master Turtle to get closer to the Red World Fairy. But everyone saw that the Red World Fairy did not seem to be interested, and did not even intend to ask Master Turtle. Many people were overjoyed in their hearts. Master Turtle's reputation was useless in front of the Red World Fairy. Lin Feng obviously also noticed this, so he no longer mentioned his cheap master, Master Turtle, lest the Red World Fairy threw him out impatiently. Lin Feng said directly, "This junior has obtained a treasure, and today I specially present it to the immortal sovereign." "Present it?" The Red World Fairy said lightly. "Yes." Lin Feng responded. He held a painting scroll in his right hand, and then flew towards the Red World Fairy. He came in front of the Red World Fairy and presented the treasure to the Red World Fairy. The Red World Fairy opened the treasure. "What? This is?" After seeing the treasure, the Red World Fairy's expression changed again and again. Seeing this scene, many people looked at each other in dismay. What kind of treasure could make Venerable Hong Chun reveal such a shocked expression? Only those who had cultivated to their level. Only then did they understand the mystery of destiny. Now, those top experts were deep in thought. They did not understand why the Red World Fairy would agree to Lin Feng's request. Groups of cultivators continued to come forward to congratulate him. But at this moment, a loud rumbling sound was heard. "Look!" Someone pointed to the sky and shouted. An incomparably huge vortex appeared in the sky. That vortex was violently twisting. Suddenly, endless darkness poured down from the vortex. Day turned into night in an instant. Everyone was shocked. What kind of method was this? How could it be so terrifying? It could actually reverse day and night. A world of nothingness appeared in everyone's sight. In that world of nothingness, 5 old men walked out. Each of the old men seemed to have lived for an eternity. Their auras were ancient, powerful, and immortal. The 5 elders of the Taishang immortal sect. An ancestor-level expert exclaimed in shock. The 5 elders of the Taishang immortal sect were famous experts. Each of the 5 elders had lived for more than 30 million years. The strength of each of them was unimaginable. They were what the Taishang immortal sect relied on. They were also the foundation of the Taishang immortal sect. Back then, these 5 elders had once hunted down the Red World Fairy. But they did not succeed. Now, the Red World Fairy was celebrating her birthday. The 5 elders had appeared. They were obviously up to no good. 3,000 years really passed in the blink of an eye. Tai Tianyi said aloud. Standing in the world of nothingness, he looked at the Red World Fairy. The 5 elders were called Tai Tianyi, Tai Lei, Tai Shini, Tai Daoyi, and Tai Shui. They were the only 5 supremes left in the Taishang immortal sect. That's right. It's really fast. Venerable Red Dust also sighed with emotion. Back then, we did not kill you because we were at the threshold of life and death. We could only send out a clone. Now that we have come out of seclusion, it's time to get rid of you. Tai Lei said. His tone was very calm. Killing the Red World Fairy, the #1 expert of the 9 states Great World, seemed to be something that could be done casually. The surroundings were in an uproar. The 5 elders of the Taishang immortal sect wanted to join forces to kill the Red World Fairy. Would they succeed? These 5 elders each had unparalleled cultivation. If they joined forces, they might really be able to kill the Red World Fairy. After all, no matter how strong the Red World Fairy was, she was only one person. As the saying goes, 2 fists are no match for 4 hands. Moreover, the Red World Fairy was now facing the 5 elders of the Taishang immortal sect. If I were you, I wouldn't be here. The Red World Fairy's expression was indifferent. Tai Daoyi said, We specially chose a good day to come here today. It's your birthday. It's also your death anniversary. You were born today and die today. It's also a reincarnation for you. They really don't take the Red World Fairy seriously. Lin Feng couldn't help but mutter in his heart. The 5 elders of the Taishang immortal sect were all high and mighty as they looked askance at the Red World Fairy. In their opinion, the Red World Fairy was definitely going to die today. A great battle was about to break out. Everyone couldn't help but feel nervous. The Red World Fairy sat on the golden chair. Unlike the nervous mood of the surrounding spectators, her expression was still very calm. The Red World Fairy looked at the 5 elders of the Taishang immortal sect and couldn't help but say sarcastically, "You've lived for so many years, yet you still don't know what ability you have. I think you've really lived in vain." The Red World Fairy, "You're really too arrogant. We know that you're a genius that only appears once in 100 million years, but you're still too young." The 5 elders of the Taishang immortal sect said indifferently. They stood in the world of nothingness and began to attack the Red World Fairy with their hands. Boom, 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 boom. It was accompanied by waves of destructive energy waves. Endless immortal light poured down from the world of nothingness. It enveloped the Red World Fairy. It's said that the power condensed by the Taishang deification art will turn anyone who is enveloped in it into ashes. Seeing the immortal light descending, a patriarch-level powerhouse immediately roared in shock. Chapter 1948. The 5 elders of the Supreme Immortal Sect launched powerful attacks, wanting to take the Red World Fairy's life directly. However, how could an expert like the Red World Fairy be killed so easily? The Red World Fairy didn't even get up. She just waved her hand gently, and all the attacks were instantly shattered. So strong. 1 against 5. She's still so calm. Lin Feng gasped. The 5 elders of the Supreme Immortal Sect had probably underestimated the Red World Fairy's strength. One had to know. More than 3,000 years ago, the Red World Fairy was the #1 expert in the 9 states' Great World. At that time, the Red World Fairy was only a few hundred years old. More than 3,000 years had passed. With the Red World Fairy's talent, perhaps only the Red World Fairy herself knew how much her strength had improved. The 5 of you came to my Red Dust Immortal Sect to behave atrociously. If I don't teach you a lesson, the world might think that my Red Dust Immortal Sect is easy to bully. The Red World Fairy's voice was cold. She stood up from the golden chair. Red Dust Heavenly Skill. Venerable Red Dust's voice was faintly discernible. Then, she unleashed a powerful divine ability. Red Dust 3,000 feet. All worlds in a single thought. Universe Star Destruction. Creation Divine Beauty. 9 Heavens Indestructible Tribulation. Who could compete with her? Her gaze swept across the world. Stars were destroyed with a flick of her finger. Mortal River Immortal. All spirits were in it. This Red Dust Heavenly Skill was a supreme technique created by the Red World Fairy herself. It condensed the power of the mortal world. A long river of mortal worlds swept across heaven and earth and flew toward the world of nothingness. In the long river of mortal world, countless scenes of the world appeared. There were flowers blooming and withering, and people's joys and sorrows. Time passed. Life and death reincarnation. Everything in this world appeared in this long river of the mortal world. Worldly affairs, worldly affairs. What was worldly affairs? Mortal world referred to the world. The world contained too many things. In a broad sense, the word world meant the universe. Therefore, the name the Red World Fairy was not given casually. The immortal venerables of the universe. This definition was too broad and too grand. The long river of the mortal world, Paul myriad phenomena. Everything that happened in the universe was included in the long river of the mortal world. Supreme indestructible immortal art. The 5 elders of the Supreme Immortal Sect roared. The Supreme Indestructible Immortal Art was a supreme technique recorded in the Supreme Immortal Scripture. The 5 elders of the Supreme Immortal Sect seemed to have realized that the Red World Fairy was much more difficult to deal with than they had imagined. As such, they didn't hold back at all as they launched powerful attacks. The power of the exalted condensed into exalted true immortal. That grand supreme true immortal seemed to possess an indestructible body. Falling from the sky. Shatter the universe. Bang. Everyone saw it. The long river of the mortal world collided with the grand supreme true immortal. The Milky Way seemed to be reversing. The long river of the mortal world condensed by the Red World Fairy collided with the grand supreme true immortal condensed by the 5 elders of the Supreme Immortal Sect again and again. It was as if the end of the world was coming. The pressure that was emitted, it made many people feel suffocated. The Red World Fairy is so powerful. She fought against the 5 elders of the supreme immortal sect alone without being defeated. Lin Feng's heart was filled with deep shock. The 5 elders of the supreme immortal sect were all experts who had cultivated for more than 30 million years. One could imagine how strong such an existence's cultivation was, but they couldn't do anything to the Red World Fairy. The Red World Fairy's strength could be said to be unfathomable. However, in this situation, the Red World Fairy wanted to defeat the 5 elders of the supreme immortal sect. It didn't seem to be an easy task, because the attacks from both sides were evenly matched, and neither could do anything to the other. At this moment, an ethereal and mysterious voice suddenly resounded between heaven and earth. The living beings in the universe have their own destiny, and I am the master of destiny. I control the destiny of billions of living beings in the mortal world. This was an extremely ancient language. Lin Feng didn't know what language it was, but he felt it. This language seemed to be a kind of incantation. He looked at the Red World Fairy. The Red World Fairy was chanting an ancient incantation. Suddenly, the Red World Fairy stretched out her right hand. Then, it was unknown what kind of energy was condensing on her fingertips. That energy made Lin Feng's hair stand on end. The energy condensed on the Red World Fairy's finger directly shot out. Whoosh! Its speed was too fast. It instantly flew into the world of nothingness. Puff! Then, the head of the supreme true immortal was pierced. After seeing this scene, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. The Red World Fairy was indeed the Red World Fairy. Her methods were really terrifying. The 5 elders of the supreme immortal sect roared and attacked one after another, condensing a powerful divine ability to sweep that energy. Bang, 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 bang. The two sides collided. Suddenly, the 5 elders of the supreme immortal sect were directly sent flying. Their faces were as pale as paper. The 5 elders of the supreme immortal sect looked at the Red World Fairy in disbelief. The 5 of them joined forces. They were not a match for the Red World Fairy. This made it difficult for them to accept. At this moment, everyone watching the battle was still in a state of deep shock. As expected of the number 1 expert of the 9 states' great world, 1 against 5. She was actually able to win. Let's go. The 5 elders of the supreme immortal sect said in a deep voice. The 5 of them knew that they were not a match for the supreme immortal sovereign, so they wanted to escape. The Red World Fairy said coldly, "It's not easy to leave so easily after coming to my place. If you don't leave something behind, where will I, the Red World Fairy, put my face?" As soon as the Red World Fairy's voice fell, she waved her right hand. A dazzling killing light flashed. It condensed and instantly rushed into the world of nothingness, slashing towards the 5 elders of the supreme immortal sect. The 5 elders of the supreme immortal sect roared and wanted to fight back, but they were shocked to find that an invisible force, from that killing light, it dissipated. It imprisoned their bodies. This was the power of fate. No. The 5 elders of the supreme immortal sect roared. The killing light was about to kill the 5 elders of the supreme immortal sect. Suddenly, a ball of immortal light appeared in the depths of the world of nothingness. Waves of terrifying immortal pressure spread out. The Red World Fairy, you've gone too far. An ancient voice came from that ball of immortal light. An immortal artifact. It's the supreme immortal sect's immortal artifact. After seeing that ball of immortal light, many people cried out in alarm. A terrifying immortal light shot out from that ball of immortal chi, sweeping towards the Red World Fairy's attack. Clang! The 2 attacks collided, and a sonorous collision sound was heard. The world of nothingness was pierced through. It was as if the world was about to shatter. This collision, it was too terrifying. The mysterious immortal artifact flew over and wrapped around the 5 elders of the supreme immortal sect. Then, they wanted to tear the void and leave. Humph! At this time, the Red World Fairy couldn't help but snort, and her eyes turned cold. Chapter 1949. Today, Since I said that these 5 people need to leave something behind before they can leave, they will definitely leave something behind before they can leave. The Red World Fairy's cold voice resounded between heaven and earth. She took a step forward. Faintly discernible ancient incantations reverberated between heaven and earth. The great Tao of destiny, you dominate the fate of all living things in the world. Now, someone is blaspheming the dignity of the Tao of destiny. Please descend with the power of destiny and let me punish this lowly existence. This was the incantation of the Great Destiny Technique. Among the 3,000 Great Taos, the Great Destiny Technique was ranked second. This was a great Tao that was almost above the heavenly Tao. It was mysterious and unfathomable. Destiny was the final destination. Fate was destiny. Destiny was preordained by the heavens. It was the so-called destiny. Destiny was a fleeting thing that could not be seen or touched. However, it really existed. Why were some people born into wealthy families? Emperors, kings, generals, and ministers? Why were some people born into poor families that could not even fill their stomachs? This was destiny. The Great Destiny Technique involved the power of destiny. It was extremely terrifying. Boom. Above the 9 heavens, a long river of destiny descended from the sky. It rumbled as it flew toward the void. After seeing the long river of destiny, countless cultivators, including experts at the patriarch level, could not help but want to worship the Red World Fairy. What kind of power is this? Lin Feng's body and soul trembled. He felt his legs go soft and weak. He wanted to kneel before the Red World Fairy. At this moment, countless cultivators were kneeling on the ground, worshipping the Red World Fairy as if they were worshipping a great emperor. Lin Feng hurriedly circulated the archaic dragon-esque elephant art to dissolve the pressure of the long river of destiny. Only then did he feel much better. The power of destiny. This is the legendary Great Destiny Technique. The Demon Lord's voice trembled slightly. This woman is so powerful. She can actually summon the long river of destiny. Could it be that she has already peeked into the true meaning of destiny? Yao Jun's heart was deeply shaken. Above destiny was the Tao of destiny. Destiny was the destiny that had been planned by the heavenly Tao. There were many different kinds of people's fates. For example, a scholar's fate might be to fail in his studies. After failing in his studies, he might become depressed and eventually die of illness. He might also become a teacher. It was also possible that he would pass the imperial examination and become an official in the imperial court. This was the fate of the heavens. However, how this scholar's fate would be depended on some things that he would experience the day after tomorrow. If he grasped the Great Fate Technique, he would be able to circulate the power of fate and control the fate of this scholar. If he wanted him to fall behind on the Sun Mountain, he would fall behind on the Sun Mountain. If he wanted him to be on the Golden Roll, he would be on the Golden Roll. This was manipulating the fate of others. But it was not about changing the fate of others. What did it mean to change one's fate? It wasn't fated, but it suddenly appeared. Only then could it be called changing someone's fate. Regardless of whether a scholar achieved first place in the imperial examination or failed, this was a fate that could occur in one's life. A fisherman who had never been to school had become the top scorer. Was this even possible? Of course not. This fisherman who had never been to school had never been destined to become the top scorer. However, if someone defied the heavens and changed his fate, allowing this fisherman to become the top scorer, this was changing one's fate. If one wanted to grasp the power to change one's fate, they would need to grasp a higher level of the Great Tao, a Great Tao that surpassed the Tao of destiny. This Great Tao was the Tao of destiny. There was a legend that if one wanted to grasp the Great Fate Technique, they would first have to grasp the Great Fate Technique. Lin Feng did not know if the Red World Fairy had grasped the Great Fate Technique, but after hearing the Demon Lord's words, Lin Feng knew that the Red World Fairy had grasped the Great Fate Technique. He was extremely shocked. Although the Great Fate Technique could not change the fate of others, it could control the fate of others. This was an almost heaven-defying ability. The River of Fate enveloped the mysterious immortal artifact, the Great Fate Technique. You have actually cultivated the Great Fate Technique to this level. No. This already contains a trace of the true essence of fate. Could it be that you have already begun to comprehend the mysteries of the great fate technique? The mysterious immortal artifact spirit let out a roar of disbelief. Fate, fate. It was fleeting. Grasping one of them, it was enough to change the color of heaven and earth. It could make the gods submit. Now, the Red World Fairy seemed to have not only grasped the great fate technique, but she had also begun to comprehend it. She was truly amazing. Screams rang out one after another. The 5 elders of the Taishang immortal sect had been injured and were screaming. The Red World Fairy, you are indeed a peerless genius. Just you wait. Soon, I will appear again. At that time, I will break your Tao of destiny and behead you. The artifact spirit let out a cold voice. Then, it tore through the river of fate, swept up the 5 elders of the Taishang immortal sect, and disappeared without a trace. The river of fate dissipated. 5 bloody arms fell from the sky. Heavens, are those the arms of the 5 elders of the Taishang immortal sect? Many people sucked in a breath of cold air. The 5 elders of the Taishang immortal sect were protected by the immortal artifact, but they couldn't escape the fate of having their arms cut off by the Red World Fairy. This was the Red World Fairy. What was her cultivation level? The Red World Fairy gently pointed, and the 5 arms turned into pure flesh and blood essence, which was then sealed by her. Let the birthday celebration continue. The Red World Fairy sat back on the golden chair and said aloud. At this time, everyone came back to their senses and suppressed the deep shock in their hearts. The cultivators who didn't go to the birthday celebration went to the birthday celebration one after another. After the birthday celebration, the Red World Fairy left, and King and the others led everyone to the banquet. On the way to the banquet, Lin Feng was still deeply shocked in his heart. The Red World Fairy's power. It deeply touched him. Demon Lord, what is the Red World Fairy's cultivation level? Lin Feng asked. If I'm not wrong, the Red World Fairy has already peeked into the mystery of the Great Emperor Realm. In fact, she can already break through to the Great Emperor Realm. But she hasn't chosen to break through to the Great Emperor Realm. She seems to be waiting for something. The Demon Lord's voice was faint. Waiting for something? What is it? Lin Feng asked. I can't say. I can't say. The Demon Lord shook his head. He didn't tell Lin Feng about this matter. Lin Feng was angry. His curiosity was piqued. The Demon Lord didn't finish his words. Lin Feng wanted to chop the Demon Lord into pieces. Not long after, a dense crowd of cultivators arrived at the Red Dust Immortal Sect's 10,000 Immortal Palace. This was the place where a banquet was held to entertain the cultivators who came to celebrate the Red World Fairy's birthday. Everyone found a place to sit. At this moment, the Red World Fairy. She returned to her Red Dust Immortal Palace. She stood in the palace, took out the blood coffin portrait, looked at it, and fell into deep thought. Whoosh! Divine Ancestor Tianlong and Old Mother Phoenix flew in. Look at this portrait. The Red World Fairy handed the blood coffin portrait to the 2 of them. The 2 of them looked at it. Their expressions changed drastically. Divine Ancestor Tianlong's hand that was holding the blood coffin portrait trembled slightly. The blood coffin portrait. He spat out 3 words. Wasn't it already destroyed? Why did it reappear in the world? Old Mother Phoenix took a deep breath and said, the Red World Fairy said, this is fate. A red thread appeared on her hand. When Divine Ancestor Tianlong and Old Mother Phoenix saw the red thread on the Red World Fairy's wrist, their expressions changed drastically. Chapter 1950. This is Strands of Red Dust. Divine Ancestor Tianlong and Old Mother Phoenix cried out in shock. They were the Red World Fairy's best friends, so they knew what the appearance of the strands of red dust meant. It meant the Red World Fairy's tribulation had arrived. Divine Ancestor Tianlong asked, why is it a tribulation of love? But after saying this, Divine Ancestor Tianlong regretted it. Any tribulation seemed to be a normal thing, but the Red World Fairy's tribulation was actually a tribulation of love. For a moment, it was hard for him to accept. This was the last tribulation before the Red World Fairy became an emperor, and it was also the most dangerous and terrifying tribulation. The Red World Fairy looked at the strands of red dust on her wrist. She was silent for a long time. Over the years, she had thought about it many times. She had been thinking, what kind of tribulation might appear in the future? But the Red World Fairy had never thought about it. There would actually be a tribulation of love. After all, how could someone like the Red World Fairy be burdened by love? For someone like her, any terrifying tribulation was possible. Only the tribulation of love. It was the most unlikely one to appear. But now, the most impossible type of tribulation had appeared. A person like the Red World Fairy was shockingly talented. She couldn't escape the word love. It was really hard to believe, but at the same time, it couldn't help but sigh. In this world, perhaps no one could cut off the word love. Even immortal honorable red dust. It was the same. Old Mother Phoenix said, "Is it that kid? That kid called Linfeng? The kid who contributed the blood coffin diagram?" The Red World Fairy nodded. Back then, this kid didn't make his request, but let you owe him a favor. Therefore, the two of you, who originally didn't have any intersection, intertwined with each other, forming the strands of red dust. Is it a coincidence? Or is someone instructing him to do this behind the scenes? If someone is instructing him to do this behind the scenes, they have ulterior motives. Why don't I kill that kid? Once and for all. Killing intent flashed in Sky Dragon Divine Ancestor's eyes. The Red World Fairy said, "It doesn't matter if it's a love tribulation or any other tribulation. Since he has appeared, he should face it, not run away. Fellow Taoist Sky Dragon, there's no need to make things difficult for him." Old Mother Phoenix asked, "What does Venerable Immortal plan to do?" "Give me some time to think." The Red World Fairy looked at the red dust thread on her wrist and muttered to herself. Inside the demonic orb, the demon lord sat on top of the lonely grave. He raised his head and saw the red dust thread on Lin Feng's wrist. He could not help but reveal a faintly discernible smile. Strands of mortal love. How interesting. This immortal venerable Hong Chun. She is a woman who has been stunning since ancient times. To think that she would encounter a love tribulation after confirming her Tao and becoming an emperor. How incredible. I even thought that this kind of tribulation would only appear when a woman who prioritizes men in everything goes through her tribulation. Moreover, it's not a high-level tribulation. Usually, this kind of tribulation would only appear when cultivators below the heavenly god realm undergo a love tribulation. Someone like the Red World Fairy would actually encounter a love tribulation after confirming her Tao and becoming an emperor. The things in this world are truly mysterious. The demon lord muttered to himself. Lin Feng did not know what a love tribulation was. Perhaps it was because his cultivation level was not high enough that he did not see the red dust thread on his wrist at all. The banquet was very lively. However, the Red World Fairy did not appear. Now, everyone was talking about the battle between the Red World Fairy and the 5 elders of the Supreme Immortal Sect, as well as the ancient immortal artifact of the Supreme Immortal Sect. Even though so much time had passed, everyone was still extremely excited when they thought of that battle. After the banquet ended, everyone returned to their residences to rest. The challenge would be held tomorrow. Some of the victors would be qualified to enter the Hongjun Dao Hall. However, the specific rules had not been announced yet. There were rumors that there would be 100 spots. There were simply too few spots. Of course, it was hard to say whether there would really be 100 spots to enter the Hongjun Dao Hall. After all, the reason why rumors were called rumors was that they were often inaccurate. On the way back, Lin Feng met Sikong Yun and the others. Sikong Yun sneered and looked at Lin Feng, saying, "Kid, tomorrow you will regret not letting the Red World Fairy enlighten you and improve your cultivation level." Lin Feng said indifferently, "Do I need the Red World Fairy to enlighten me to deal with you? Don't think too highly of yourself, because you may become a joke in the end. We will know who will become a joke tomorrow. Don't worry, killing people on the Red World Fairy's birthday has a bad influence. I don't want to leave a bad impression in front of the Red World Fairy, so I won't kill you, but I will make you kneel in front of me and beg for mercy." Sikong Yun sneered and then left in a huff. This person seemed to be confident in this battle. He was full of confidence. He did not put Lin Feng in his eyes at all. Of course, This Sikong Yun was indeed a powerful person. This person had the strength to compete for the Heaven's Chosen list and could be considered a top genius. Seeing that the Heaven's Chosen list was about to begin, many people on the list were estimated to have lived for more than 1,000 years. At that time, these people would not be able to participate in the latest Heaven's Chosen list battle. Therefore, there would be many vacancies on the Heaven's Chosen list. Sikong Yun was still very likely to enter the Heaven's Chosen list. This person's arrogance was directly related to his strength. Of course, Lin Feng did not care about Sikong Yun's provocation. Sikong Yun was indeed very powerful, but Lin Feng did not think that he was weak. Lin Feng felt a cold, murderous intent from afar. He turned his head and saw Duan Hongxiu staring at him coldly. Li Yingdai was beside Duan Hongxiu, looking from afar. She did not dare to greet Lin Feng. Lin Feng frowned slightly. He did not feel at ease letting Li Yingdai stay by Duan Hongxiu's side. But at this stage, he could not directly fall out with Duan Hongxiu. At least, he had to wait until he found a way to neutralize Li Yingdai's heart-biting venomous insect. At that time, there was no need to be afraid of falling out with Duan Hongxiu. Anyway, she could not do anything to Li Yingdai. After returning to his residence, Lin Feng began to adjust his breath and prepare for tomorrow's fierce battle. That night, a crane suddenly made a loud and clear sound and hovered above the red dust immortal sect. The crane finally locked on to a palace and flew over quickly. Bang, bang, bang. Lin Feng heard knocking on the door. He opened the door and found a crane standing outside. Just now, this crane knocked on the door with its wings. The crane held a letter in its mouth. It handed the letter to Lin Feng. Then the crane burned and turned into ashes in an instant. Lin Feng was shocked. This crane was not made of flesh and blood. It seemed to be condensed by the Qi Huang technique. After the mission was completed, it would turn into ashes. Lin Feng looked at the letter in his hand and was puzzled. Who wrote the letter to him? Chapter 1951. There was no signature on the letter, so Lin Feng was a little puzzled. He didn't know who sent it to him. He opened the letter. He saw the beautiful words on it. Husband, I'm Yao Guang. I finally found the ancient starry sky path that leads to that place. Some things vaguely appeared in my mind, but they were vague and I couldn't remember clearly. Perhaps that place. There's the answer I'm looking for. Every once in a while, I'll send an immortal crane with a letter to explain some of the things I've experienced. Husband, don't worry. Feng Yaoguang's signature was on the final payment. Seeing this short letter, Lin Feng was both gratified and worried. He was gratified that Feng Yaoguang was still thinking about him. He was worried that he still didn't know where Feng Yaoguang was going. Lin Feng's feelings for Feng Yaoguang were quite complicated. Feng Yaoguang lost her memories, had a mysterious background, and was very powerful. Back then, he just joked with her and said that he was her husband. Feng Yaoguang believed him. Then, she lived with him for a while. Then, she left. In fact, Lin Feng felt that he quite liked Feng Yaoguang. Although he hadn't been with Feng Yaoguang for long, Feng Yaoguang was wholeheartedly good to him. She really thought of him as her husband. I hope you're well. We'll meet again in the future. Lin Feng muttered to himself. A night passed in the blink of an eye. The next day, Lin Feng got up early and rushed to the central square. It was already crowded. Everyone was waiting for the Red World Ferry to appear. The Hongjun training ground had a huge attraction to everyone. However, the cultivators participating in this competition had an age limit. If there was no age limit, many cultivators of the older generation would probably be unable to resist participating. About 2 hours later, the Red World Fairy arrived. Heavenly Dragon Divine Ancestor and Old Mother Phoenix stayed by immortal Venerable Hongchen's side. Lin Feng felt two auras that made his hair stand on end enveloping him. It seemed to be probing him. Lin Feng frowned slightly. He used his divine sense to sense the two auras and found that they were actually Heavenly Dragon Divine Ancestor and Old Mother Phoenix. This caused Lin Feng's mind to tremble slightly. He couldn't help but mutter in his heart. He didn't seem to have provoked these two terrifying existences, did he? Why were these two existences constantly investigating him? Even though he didn't understand, Lin Feng's expression didn't change. He was also not worried that Sky Dragon Divine Ancestor and Old Mother Phoenix would be able to find out anything special. And King said, "Everyone, this time, my teacher will open the Hongjun training ground. When the time comes, some people will enter the Hongjun training ground to cultivate for a month. Whether or not you can gain anything in this 1 month will depend on your own luck. Activate the battle arena now. This time, there will be 1,000 spots. The challenge method will be to defend the arena. Those who are under 3,000 years old and have confidence in themselves can defend an arena. The challenge will last for 3 days. If you can successfully defend the arena, you can enter the Hongjun training ground." As in King's voice fell, a loud rumbling sound was heard. In the void, 1,000 huge arenas appeared. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. As in King's voice fell, cultivators soared into the sky and flew towards the arena. It was obvious that they wanted to defend the arena. Many cultivators landed on the arena, but there were also some cultivators who were swept away by the restrictions on the arena. Those cultivators who were swept away were all over 3,000 years old. Yet, they still held on to the mentality of trying their luck. But reality was cruel. They were not able to enter the arena. After the defending cultivator stepped onto the stage, another cultivator immediately issued a challenge to the defending cultivator. Boom, 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 boom. Great battles erupted one after another. These defending cultivators and the challenging cultivators were all very powerful. Therefore, the battles were extremely intense. But as time passed, many of the battles were decided. The defeated cultivators were teleported out by the array formation of the arena, and the winning cultivators would get 15 minutes of rest. 15 minutes later, the restrictions were activated again. New challengers could go and challenge them. In fact, the defending cultivators were at a disadvantage, because continuous battles would consume a lot of energy. Of course, if one was strong enough, they would recover very quickly. It was enough to ignore this kind of consumption. Whoosh! Lin Feng soared into the sky and landed on an arena. "That kid went up," Divine Ancestor Tianlong said. Old Mother Phoenix also looked at the arena where Lin Feng was. She was also very curious. What qualifications did Lin Feng have to be the Red World Fairy's love tribulation? Even the Red World Fairy's gaze was also looking at the arena where Lin Feng was. Lin Feng's opponent was a young powerhouse from the Wild Food God clan. "Kid, I'm going to beat you up until you kneel and beg for mercy." The young powerhouse of the Wild Food God clan laughed sinisterly. Lin Feng said indifferently, "I'm afraid the final result will be you being beaten down by me. I'm so angry." The young powerhouse of the Wild Food God clan roared and rushed toward Lin Feng. He was close to 3 meters tall. This was the characteristic of the Wild Food God clan. Each of them was incomparably tall. This clan's physical body could fight against a true dragon, although this clan also had extremely powerful divine abilities. But the cultivators of this clan, they seemed to like to use their physical bodies to fight their enemies. In the previous battle, this young cultivator of the Wild Food God clan didn't use any magic power. He just used pure physical strength to crush his opponent, and it was a close to a one-sided victory. From this, it could be seen. This young cultivator of the Wild Food God clan had a powerful physical body. Divine Ancestor Tianlong said, "This kid's vision is too bad. He doesn't know how to choose an opponent." He actually chose the cultivator of the Wild Food God clan. Not only is the Wild Food God clan's physical body powerful, but their magic power is also incomparably tyrannical. There are almost no weaknesses. Their overall combat strength is extremely terrifying. Dealing with them is as difficult as ascending to the heavens. Old Mother Phoenix couldn't help but nod. The Wild Food God clan was indeed a very difficult clan to deal with. Good timing. Feeling the powerful fist power of the Wild Food God clan's cultivator, Lin Feng felt as if his blood was about to burn. He could feel how tyrannical the body of this cultivator of the Wild Food God clan was. This also aroused Lin Feng's fighting spirit. Fighting with an expert. Only then could he improve himself. And this cultivator of the Wild Food God clan was undoubtedly a top expert. Lin Feng also didn't use any magic power. He leaped out and also punched toward the Wild Food God clan's cultivator. Divine Ancestor Tianlong frowned and said, The human's physical body is more than one grade inferior to the wild food god clan's cultivator's physical body. That kid wants to fight with the wild food god clan's cultivator. Isn't this courting death? Chapter 1952. Bang! In the next moment, Lin Feng collided with the wild eating god tribe cultivator. The fists of the two men collided fiercely. Immediately, a series of muffled sounds of collision could be heard. His powerful physical strength vibrated out. The entire arena trembled violently a few times. When Holy Ancestor Tianlong saw that, he was astonished. He initially thought that Lin Feng's physical strength was useless against the cultivator of the godly cuisine clan. Lin Feng was like an egg striking a stone, but he did not expect. In the first collision, Lin Feng was not at a disadvantage. This kid's physical body is quite powerful, Heavenly Dragon Divine Ancestor said with a slight frown. He must have cultivated some powerful cultivation technique. Otherwise, his physical body can't be so tyrannical. Old Mother Phoenix said, I can see the power of the Dracophant flowing in his body. If I'm not wrong, he should have cultivated the immemorial dragonesque elephant art. The Red World Fairy said. The Red World Fairy was indeed too terrifying. Lin Feng did not even circulate the immemorial dragonesque elephant art. The Red World Fairy only glanced at him and knew what kind of magic Lin Feng cultivated. But thinking about it, the Red World Fairy was an existence who was about to become an emperor. The Red World Fairy's terrifying ability seemed to be understandable. What? Immemorial dragonesque elephant art? The art created by the supreme Dracophant of the immemorial era? This art is indeed powerful. It can temper a physical body that surpasses the fiend god realm. If I remember correctly, this art has long been lost. This kid was actually able to obtain the cultivation method of the immemorial dragonesque elephant art. It seems that he has obtained a lot of opportunities over the years. Heavenly Dragon Divine Ancestor said in surprise. Old Mother Phoenix said, after all, he is someone who has a dispute with an immortal sovereign. Naturally, he can't be an ordinary person. The Red World Fairy's eyes were faint as she said, this person seems to be more than I imagined. In the arena, Lin Feng and the cultivator from the Wilderness Eater God clan clashed, but the powerful shockwave forced them to retreat. The wild carnivorous gods widened his eyes and shouted, You can actually take my punch? What's your name? Lin Feng. Wow, wow, wow. Lin Feng, I will remember you. You should also remember my name. My name is Gu Daniu. The cultivator from the Wild Food God clan shouted. Pooh! Lin Feng burst out laughing. Originally, he thought that this ferocious-looking cultivator from the Wild God Eater clan would have a very famous name. He didn't expect him to be called Daniu. This name instantly caused the valiant image of the old man in front of him to plummet. Gu Daniu glared at Lin Feng and shouted, What are you laughing at? Are you trying to make fun of my name? Those who dared to make fun of me have already been beaten to a pulp by me, Lin Feng said with a smile. I'm not making fun of you. I just thought of something funny and couldn't help but laugh. You're pissing me off. You dare to be distracted while fighting me in the arena? How dare you look down on me? I'll beat you to death. Gu Daniu's face was ferocious as he quickly pounced on Lin Feng. The Wilderness Eater God clan was an extremely powerful ancient race. Lin Feng didn't dare to underestimate Gu Daniu. Facing Gu Daniu's attack, he didn't dare to be careless. Instead, he attacked with all his might. Asterisk bang, bang, bang. Asterisk Lin Feng and Gu Daniu collided again and again. It was as if two gigantic mountains were crashing against each other. Every time they clashed, there would be a violent sound of collision. The void arena that they were in was constantly shaking. If it wasn't for the protection of a powerful restriction, the void arena would have shattered. The battle between the two attracted the attention of countless people. The Wilderness Eater God clan had a strong physical body. Usually, when fighting against the Wilderness Eater God clan, it was best to use magic power to fight against the Wilderness Eater God clan. But for someone like Lin Feng, he actually used his physical body to fight the Wilderness Eater God clan cultivator head-on. It was the first time they saw it. What made everyone feel incredulous was that Lin Feng used his physical body to fight the Wilderness Eater God clan cultivator head-on. He wasn't at a disadvantage. This physical body, isn't it too terrifying? The two sides clashed for hundreds of rounds. Every punch hit the flesh. As the battle went on, Gu Daniu gradually couldn't hold on anymore. Because not only was Lin Feng's physical body strong, but he also had the immortal divine body. His body had a strong self-healing ability. He was evenly matched with Gu Daniu. Both of them had consumed a lot of energy. In fact, he had even suffered serious injuries. However, Lin Feng's immortal divine body's self-healing speed was very fast, and Gu Daniu's recovery speed was much slower than Lin Feng's. So the more they fought, Lin Feng's advantage became more and more obvious. Bang! After the two sides collided again, Gu Daniu was sent flying by Lin Feng's punch. With a thud, Gu Daniu fell to the ground. Everyone was dumbfounded. A human cultivator, competing with the Wilderness Eater God clan cultivator in physical body, and he actually won. Wasn't this too inconceivable? The human race's physical body had always been at a disadvantage compared to other races. What's more, compared to the Wilderness Eater God clan, a race with a strong physical body. But Lin Feng's physical body was so strong. It completely overturned everyone's understanding. How did that kid cultivate? What a pervert! Many people muttered. Gu Daniu got up from the ground and looked at Lin Feng gloomily. You're awesome. I accept my defeat wholeheartedly. If there's a chance in the future, I'll look for you to spar. Where can I find you? Gu Daniu was a battle maniac. His eyes were filled with strong fighting spirit. Reincarnation Immortal Sect. Lin Feng said. All right. Gu Daniu nodded and flew down from the arena. Lin Feng began to adjust his body. Not much later, he had already recovered to his original state. Whoosh! A cultivator flew toward Lin Feng's arena. Look, it's Sikong Yun from the Grand Void Temple. He went up to that kid with a freakish physical body. Someone shouted loudly. Then, many people looked toward Lin Feng's arena. This battle was definitely going to be one that attracted a lot of attention. His physical body is very strong. But in a battle between cultivators, physical body is definitely not the main factor that affects the outcome. Sikong Yun looked coldly at Lin Feng. So, what are you trying to say? Lin Feng's expression was calm. Kid, I'll give you a chance now. As long as you kneel on the ground and wipe the dust off my shoes, I'll spare you. Of course, you can also reject me. But I'll mercilessly break your limbs and make you kneel on the ground, kowtow to me, and beg for mercy. Sikong Yun said with his hands behind his back. As soon as Sikong Yun's words came out, it was as if a pot had exploded in the surroundings. Sikong Yun was looking down on Lin Feng too much, wasn't he? At this moment, Sikong Yun lifted his right foot and looked at Lin Feng with contempt. Why are you still standing there? Hurry up and wipe the dust off my shoes. Shifting shadows. Sikong Yun shouted in a low voice. His real body instantly switched with a doppelganger. Lion's roar technique? Roar. Lin Feng roared. A powerful sound wave attack suddenly vibrated out. All these years, Lin Feng did not know how many superpowers he had obtained. He had also obtained many soundwave superpowers. He had also cultivated several powerful soundwave attacks. The lion's roar was one of them. Once the lion's roar was used, the powerful sound wave shook the void. Bang, bang, bang. Sikong Yun's doppelganger began to explode. Not long after, all the doppelganger exploded. Only Sikong Yun's real body was left. Lin Feng had already rushed to Sikong Yun's front again. He threw a punch at Sikong Yun. Sikong Yun's face suddenly changed. In the confinement magnetic field, his movements were greatly hindered. Therefore, facing Lin Feng's attack, Sikong Yun could not escape at all. He had to block Lin Feng's punch. Bang! The two sides fiercely collided. It had to be said, Sikong Yun was very powerful. In a hurry, he blocked Lin Feng's punch with all his strength. Unexpectedly, it was Lin Feng. They were evenly matched. Sikong Yun was about to form a new attack to counterattack Lin Feng. But at this time, he realized that his power was rapidly depleting. Oh my God! Look! Countless people pointed at Sikong Yun and shouted in shock. This was because Sikong Yuan had turned from a young and strong man to an old man in a few breaths' time. It's the great reincarnation art, an unparalleled superpower. How is this possible? In the reincarnation immortal sect, only the sect leader is qualified to cultivate the great reincarnation art. How does Lin Feng know the great reincarnation art? Countless people exclaimed in disbelief. Chapter 1954. The Great Reincarnation Art was one of the most powerful inheritances of the Reincarnation Immortal Sect. It was also the foundation of the Reincarnation Immortal Sect. It was said that the Reincarnation Immortal Sutra also recorded immortal techniques. However, in reality, immortal techniques were not as precious as the Great Reincarnation Art. Immortal techniques. They were offensive divine techniques. As for the Grand Reincarnation Art, it was a foundational grand Tao that involved the 6 paths of reincarnation, the past, and the future. Immortal techniques were precious. However, there were many immortal techniques in the world. The Great Reincarnation Art. However, there was only one. Under normal circumstances, the Great Reincarnation Art was indeed a divine technique that only the sect master of the Reincarnation Immortal Sect could cultivate. However, outsiders did not know much about the Reincarnation Immortal Sect. According to Lin Feng's knowledge, if he made great contributions to the sect, the Reincarnation Immortal Sutra might also reward him with the cultivation method of the Great Reincarnation Art. Of course, this kind of contribution was definitely related to the rise and fall of the sect. Ordinary contributions. The Reincarnation Immortal Sutra would not reward him with the Great Reincarnation Art. Lin Feng's Great Reincarnation Art was not obtained from the Reincarnation Immortal Sutra. He obtained it from the Reincarnation Demon Hall. The surrounding cultivators naturally did not know about it. This is the ancient times rush billions of years recorded in the past chapter of the Great Reincarnation Art, right? This kid is so young, but he can understand the mysteries of the Great Reincarnation Art. His talent is really terrifying. Divine Ancestor Tian Long could not help but exclaim. The more powerful a divine technique was, the more difficult it was to cultivate it. It was not that one could cultivate it successfully after obtaining a powerful divine technique. One had to understand the mysteries within to be able to comprehend the Tao within. Then, one could cultivate it successfully. Take the Great Reincarnation Art, for example. This divine technique was mysterious and unpredictable. Although it was powerful, it was also extremely difficult to comprehend. Even if one obtained it, they might not be able to comprehend it successfully. There was no lack of such cultivators in the world. They obtained a powerful inheritance, but were unable to comprehend the Tao within, not to mention successfully cultivating this divine technique. It was indeed shocking that Lin Feng could comprehend a divine technique like the Great Reincarnation Art. This was because the higher the level of the 3,000 Great Tao, the harder it was to comprehend it. Now, Lin Feng's move, which was recorded in the first part of the Great Reincarnation Art, was displaying its might. Sikong Yun's body had already weakened to the extreme after aging. This was the best opportunity to deal with him. Eat my left hook. Lin Feng leaped out and threw a punch at Sikong Yun. Sikong Yun's expression was extremely unsightly. He knew very well that his body's condition was extremely terrible. Facing off against Lin Feng, he was bound to suffer a huge loss. Therefore, Sikong Yun wanted to take a defensive stance and wait for the effects of immemorial years to wear off. Facing Lin Feng's left hook, an illusory cliff appeared in front of Sikong Yun. One cliff, one world. This unique skill was extremely powerful. Lin Feng's punch seemed to have blasted into a world of nothingness. Sikong Yun was clearly right in front of him, but Lin Feng had the feeling that there was a vast distance between them. Bury the void. Sikong Yun continued to attack. He condensed a dense array of spells and sent them into the cliff. Then, the cliff buried the surrounding void. Lin Feng originally used the confinement magnetic field to seal the void where the arena was and restrict Sikong Yun's movements. But now, the confinement magnetic field was also buried. Just like that, the confinement magnetic field was broken by Sikong Yun. This Sikong Yun is so powerful. One cliff, one world. It's simply an unbreakable divine skill. Yes, any attack that Lin Feng makes will be buried by that cliff. This time, he will be in a passive position. Seeing Sikong Yun's great power, many cultivators could not help but frown slightly. Sikong Yun's one cliff, one world was indeed too strange. It buried all divine skills. This was one of the top inheritances of the Great Void Temple. Naturally, it was extremely mysterious. 8 worlds. Lin Feng sneered. 8 illusory small worlds appeared under his feet. It was rumored that if one cultivated the 8 worlds to a high realm, taking a step forward, it could even cross the distance of 8 real small worlds. Of course, now, Lin Feng was still a long way from cultivating to this level. But now, Lin Feng's 8 worlds could cross the cliff world condensed by Sikong Yun. It was not a difficult world. The cliff world condensed by Sikong Yun was called One Cliff, One World. This divine skill defined the area covered by the cliff as an illusory small world. This illusory small world, it could bury all attacks, and Lin Feng's 8 worlds could cross 8 illusory small worlds. Whoosh! Lin Feng stepped on the 8 worlds and instantly crossed the illusory cliff world. Sikong Yun's face, which was originally full of smiles, suddenly stiffened. Flying through the air. Lin Feng roared. Flying through the air? What kind of unique skill is this? I've never heard of it. I've never heard of it either. Could it be an ancient divine skill that has been lost for a long time? Many people were puzzled, but soon, they knew what kind of unique skill flying through the air was. Lin Feng leaped into the air and then kicked Sikong Yun's face. Bang! Sikong Yun was directly kicked away. A clear shoe print appeared on Sikong Yun's face. Damn, this is flying through the air? Many people rolled their eyes. Hearing such a profound name, they thought it was some unique skill. Wasn't this a move used by hooligans in a fight? Leaping into the air, kicking out a leg. Lin Feng actually gave it such a flashy name. I'm going to tear you apart. Sikong Yun, who was kicked in the face by Lin Feng and sent flying, seemed to have gone mad. This was to him. It was simply a great humiliation. He had already lost his mind, completely forgetting that he was still in an aging state. His strength was also at its weakest. Fighting Lin Feng head-on was obviously extremely irrational. A terrifying ball of energy condensed on Sikong Yun's palm and blasted towards Lin Feng. Lin Feng didn't fight Sikong Yun with his divine skill. He quickly dodged Sikong Yun. Then, he pressed forward. Lin Feng planned to use his body to suppress Sikong Yun's. Seeing Lin Feng dodge his divine skill attack and arrive beside him, Sikong Yun's expression suddenly changed. He had already regained his senses. Only now did he regret it. He should have retreated. He should have waited for his body to recover. He shouldn't have charged at Lin Feng like a madman. He was at his weakest now, and Lin Feng was at his peak. Sikong Yun wanted to retreat quickly, but it was already too late. Bang! He swung his fist at Sikong Yun. The fist ruthlessly smashed into Sikong Yun's abdomen. Sikong Yun let out a miserable cry and knelt on the ground, holding his abdomen. Aren't you very awesome? Who asked you to be awesome? Who asked you to be awesome? Lin Feng kicked Sikong Yun again and again. Sikong Yun was being kicked so hard that he kept screaming. Damn! Countless people watched this scene with their mouths agape. Was this still a battle between experts? It was simply 2 street hooligans fighting. One of them won. Then, he started to beat up the other. Chapter 1955. Who told you to show off in front of me? Who told you to show off? See if I don't kick you to death. See if you still dare to show off in front of me in the future. Bang, 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 Lin Feng shouted as he kicked Sikong Yun. Sikong Yun was so depressed that he wanted to die. He hadn't even had the chance to use his full strength before being defeated by Lin Feng. Then, he lost the ability to fight back. What followed was an extremely tragic beating. Now, Sikong Yun was full of regret. Why didn't he dodge just now? He shouldn't have taken the initiative to attack. He should have retreated and waited for his body to recover its youth. Wait for his strength to recover. But it was too late to regret. Sikong Yun's body had recovered its youth. He struggled to get up and fight to the death with Lin Feng. But before he could get up, Lin Feng raised his foot and kicked him. Sikong Yun's face and body were full of shoe prints, and Sikong Yun felt that Lin Feng's kick was very fierce. because he felt that many bones in his body seemed to have been broken. Ah! Sikong Yun roared angrily, Lin. I'll fight it out with you. He struggled to get up. However, Lin Feng's shoe was about to hit him. Bang! This kick landed on Sikong Yun's face. Sikong Yun heard the sound of cracking bones. His nose was broken. His teeth were kicked out. What was that warm thing? Damn! Blood! You little shit! How dare you be so arrogant? See if I don't beat you to death. Bang! 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 Lin Feng kicked Sikong Yun again and again. The surrounding cultivators were all dumbfounded. Some cultivators who were fighting in the arena saw this scene and their mouths twitched violently. No matter what, Sikong Yun was a top genius. But he was beaten to such a state. Seeing Lin Feng's harmless expression, many people felt a chill in their hearts. Sikong Yun was beaten to the point where he couldn't fight back. He was so angry that he spat out 3 mouthfuls of blood. Then, he fainted. Lin Feng kicked Sikong Yun and found that he had really fainted. He couldn't help but mutter, "Damn, why is he so weak?" Many people exclaimed in their hearts, "Big brother, he was almost beaten to death by you. Isn't it normal for him to faint?" Scram! Lin Feng kicked Sikong Yun down. The people of the Great Void Temple rushed into the sky and caught Sikong Yun. The Great Void Temple also had an Ancestor-level expert overseeing it. At this moment, this Ancestor-level powerhouse's face was as gloomy as water. He said with a gloomy face, "Which one of you is going to take care of that brat and restore the reputation of the Great Void Temple? After we return, I will record this as a great merit." There were still a few outstanding cultivators from the Great Void Temple. There was even one person who entered the Prodigy Roll 2,000 years ago and was ranked 97th. But now, these people were all gloomy and did not say anything. No one stood out either. Chapter 1956. Gongzi Yu could be considered Lin Feng's old rival. Lin Feng's reincarnation demon palace was snatched from Gongzi Yu's hands. As the son of the heavenly demon emperor, Gongzi Yu had been sealed for a long time. Now that he could see the light of day again, no one could stop his rise. Now, this guy was quite bold. He swaggered into the land of the 9 states and even came to the Red World Fairy's birthday banquet. Was he not afraid that others would kill him? Many people hated the heavenly demon clan. Therefore, if someone really wanted to kill Gongzi Yu, Lin Feng wouldn't be surprised. Of course, Gongzi Yu had many experts following him. Moreover, Gongzi Yu had the magic lotus on him. His methods were extremely strange. It wouldn't be easy to kill him. Gongzi Yu deliberately hid his aura. He probably didn't want to expose his identity as a heavenly demon. At this moment, Gongzi Yu had also stepped onto a stage. He was fighting with a cultivator. He didn't use the inheritance of the heavenly demon clan, nor did he display any powerful strength. He won by a narrow margin with one move. This guy is pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger. Lin Feng couldn't help but roll his eyes. Gongzi Yu obviously wanted to keep a low profile. After all, the identity of a heavenly demon was quite sensitive. After defeating his first opponent, Gongzi Yu suddenly heard someone calling him from afar. Gongzi Yu turned around and saw Lin Feng. "Why are you here in the land of the 9 states?" Lin Feng looked at Gongzi Yu with a smile that didn't look like a smile. Gongzi Yu couldn't help but roll his eyes. "Am I close to you? We are enemies, okay? Now, you actually came over to greet me so shamelessly. Those who didn't know would think that they were old friends reunited." Gongzi Yu simply ignored Lin Feng. Lin Feng pointed at Gongzi Yu and shouted, "Everyone, this guy is Tian." Gongzi Yu was furious. He had worked so hard to hide his identity, but was he going to be exposed by that bastard Lin Feng? "Is there a problem with me coming to the 9 prefectures?" Lin Feng replied with a smile, "Of course, no problem. When you're free, use the magic lotus to sense the location of that bastard Mose Tianzuan's the magic lotus. I'm going to kill him and take the magic lotus." The magic lotus could sense each other. Therefore, Gongzi Yu's the magic lotus could indeed sense the location of Mose Tianzuan's the magic lotus. However, after hearing Lin Feng's words, Gongzi Yu suddenly had the urge to punch Lin Feng to death. The magic lotus was their heavenly demon clan's sacred artifact, okay? This guy actually wanted him to help him find the location of the magic lotus. He even said that he was going to take away the sacred artifact of the heavenly demon clan right in front of him. How could there be such a shameless person in this world? You don't agree? Lin Feng smiled at Gong Ziyu. Seeing Lin Feng's threatening gaze, Gong Ziyu sneered. Gong Ziyu gnashed his teeth in anger and said coldly, I didn't say I didn't agree. Happy cooperation, Lin Feng said with a smile. Happy my ass. Gong Ziyu couldn't help but curse in his heart. He realized that it was only when he was facing Lin Feng. That was why he was so angry that he lost his composure. Since Gong Ziyu had agreed, Lin Feng wasn't worried that Gong Ziyu would go back on his word. Although Gong Ziyu was a heavenly demon, Gong Ziyu was a person who kept his promises. Sometimes, the enemy often understood his enemy very well. Therefore, Lin Feng knew Gong Ziyu very well. And Gong Ziyu, he also knew Lin Feng very well. Soon, another person came up to challenge Gong Ziyu. This kind of battle was too easy for Gong Ziyu. On the other side, Fatso also went up to the arena. Fatso joined the Reincarnation Immortal sect together with Lin Feng. Lin Feng had never seen through Fatso. Fatso was full of secrets, and Fatso's cultivation was also very powerful. Just as Lin Feng had guessed, this guy easily defeated one of his opponents. The battles on the various arenas were still ongoing. Lin Feng saw many familiar people, such as young Master Hans Han and the others from the Reincarnation Immortal sect, and Xia Shiyun and the others. They were all the saints and saintesses of the Reincarnation Immortal sect and were very powerful. It wasn't particularly difficult for them to defeat their opponents. In addition, Lin Feng also saw young Master Huang Quan, young Master Ming, young Master Xieyu, and the others go up to the arena. He also saw Qinwu people, young experts from the Evil Dragon Palace, and other forces go up to the arena. Of course, Lin Feng knew very few cultivators. Most of them, he didn't know them. The battle was very intense. From time to time, the top experts of the younger generation would meet each other. Then, an intense battle would unfold. From time to time, there would be waves of exciting cheers. So many experts were engaged in such an intense battle, mainly because there were too few spots. There were only 1,000 spots. To fight for a spot, many people went all out. Only Lin Feng's arena remained unchallenged. Even some of the top experts didn't want to provoke Lin Feng. They weren't afraid of Lin Feng. The most important thing now was to get a spot. Of course, the best choice was to get a spot at the lowest price. Therefore, there was no need to challenge Lin Feng, a ruthless person. Even if they defeated Lin Feng, they would probably suffer great losses. In the end, someone might take advantage of them. There were also some cultivators who weren't confident of defeating Lin Feng. Thinking of how Lin Feng had beaten Sikongyun half to death, they were even less willing to provoke Lin Feng. As for those cultivators who knew that their strength wasn't enough to threaten Lin Feng, they didn't even think about challenging Lin Feng. Therefore, after Lin Feng defeated Gudaniu and Sikongyun, no one came to challenge him again until the end of the arena challenge. Therefore, he basically watched others fight for 3 days. Lin Feng naturally wasn't just watching the show. When he watched some experts fight, he would also ponder deeply. Watching experts fight can often give him some inspiration in cultivation. This was also the reason why so many cultivators like to watch others fight. Not only to watch the show, but the biggest reason was that it was also helpful for their own cultivation. Dong, 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 with the sound of 3 gongs and drums. The arena challenge officially ended. Cheers could be heard from many of the arenas. Because those cultivators who successfully defended the arena, they all got the opportunity to enter the Hongjun training hall. Many people were exhausted after a series of fierce battles. They knew how difficult it was to get this opportunity. You winners can cultivate in the Hongjun training hall for a month. There are many ancient Daos in the Hongjun training hall. If you can comprehend them, you will benefit greatly. The Red World Fairy looked at the 1,000 winners. Many people were extremely excited. First, there was Hongjun Training Hall. Grand Supreme Elderly Lord, Primeval Lord of Heaven, Pangu, and Tongtian sect leader were all Hongjuan's disciples. It was obvious. Hongjuan's inheritance was so terrifying. The rise of the Red World Fairy was closely related to Hongjuan's orthodoxy. Naturally, Everyone was looking forward to it. The Red World Fairy waved her right hand. A huge vortex appeared in the sky. Let's go. One by one, the cultivators who had successfully passed the trial flew towards the huge whirlpool. Chapter 1957. Whoosh! A light flashed. Everyone who had rushed into the vortex disappeared without a trace. And these people, obviously, they had all entered the Hongjun Dao field to cultivate. And King said, "Everyone, there will be a fleet to send everyone out today. Of course, everyone can choose to stay in the Red Dust Immortal sect for a few more days. Then let's stay for a few more days. It's not bad to admire the beauties of the Red Dust Immortal sect," a cultivator said with a smile. However, most cultivators chose to leave. Is this the Hongjun Dao field? Lin Feng looked at the huge Dao field in front of him. There was a platform in the depths of the Dao field. There was an ancient statue built there. It was the image of a Taoist. He had the demeanor of an immortal and was extraordinary. Lin Feng guessed that the Taoist was Taoist Hongjun. Although Taoism was not founded by Taoist Hongjun, it was founded by his 3 disciples. However, Taoism kept splitting later on. First, it split into Ran school, Chan school, and Jie school. Then, many sects were split into many sections. For example, the Great Void Temple, Mount Longhu, and other forces were all branches of Taoism. In fact, it was not just these forces. Strictly speaking, countless forces were related to Taoism. That was because Taoism was the first sect created after the creation of the world. As Taoism continued to split, some of the forces that split up only practiced mystical abilities and did not learn Tao. Therefore, they gradually left the jurisdiction of Taoism. In fact, strictly speaking, many forces were inextricably linked to Taoism. What a dense aura of Tao! Sensing the aura of the great Tao that filled the air, many people exclaimed, "Listen, it seems to be the sound of the heavenly Tao resonating." Suddenly, someone said. Everyone listened carefully. As expected, they heard the sound of the heavenly Tao resonating. This caused everyone to be extremely shocked. The Hongjun Dao field was indeed a holy land for cultivation. The sound of the resonance of heaven and earth resounded throughout the world. The concept of Tao enveloped all directions. If one obtained an opportunity here, it would definitely benefit them for the rest of their lives. Ancestor Hongjun, please let this junior have an epiphany. Many cultivators knelt down and bowed to Taoist Hongjun's statue. After bowing to Taoist Hongjun, they stood up. Then, they found a place that they thought was good. They sat down cross-legged and began cultivating. Lin Feng didn't stop at the square. Because the Hongjun Dao field was very big, there was more than one place to comprehend the Dao. He had enmity with the Qinwu people and the evil dragon palace. It was better to find a secluded place to comprehend the Dao. If he were to comprehend the Dao on the square, it would be terrible if they were ambushed by these forces. The forest was vast. Lin Feng shuttled through the forest at high speed. Suddenly, he saw a chinchilla. The chinchilla was about 1 meter long. This was also a mutated species of heaven and earth. His body was like a cat's, but it had dragon horns. What surprised Lin Feng was that the chinchilla was actually sitting cross-legged. He was meditating and comprehending the Tao. He did not disturb the chinchilla. Lin Feng went in many places. He wanted to find a good place to practice cultivation. He also saw many ferocious beasts. The spirit beasts here were all sitting cross-legged in meditation, comprehending the heavenly Tao. Later, Lin Feng met a beautiful female cultivator. The female cultivator was wearing a snow-white dress. She was chasing a few spirit deer in the forest. She didn't look very old. She was about 17 or 18 years old. She was delicate and cute. When the female cultivator saw Lin Feng, she couldn't help but snort. She said unhappily, "Everyone else is comprehending the Tao. Why are you running around?" Lin Feng said, "Aren't you running around too?" The female cultivator said, "I'm different from you. This is my master's Tao field. I'm cultivating here." Lin Feng was surprised. Judging from the female cultivator's words, she seemed to be the Red World Fairy's disciple. Lin Feng cupped his fists and said with a smile, "I'm Lin Feng, a disciple of the Reincarnation Immortal sect. How should I address you, junior sister?" Buying you. The girl said, so it's junior sister Bai. I'm looking for a place to cultivate, but I haven't found it yet. I wonder if junior sister Bai can take me to an excellent place to cultivate? Lin Feng said with a smile. I know of a very special place, but why should I take you there? Buying you snorted. Said Lin Feng. Everybody loves sister Bai. She's smart, she's beautiful, and she's kind. How could she refuse me? Said Lin Feng. Buying you blushed slightly and said, am I as good as you say? Buying you was still young. Moreover, she was cultivating by the Red World Fairy's side. She didn't know much about the world. When she heard Lin Feng praising her like this, she felt embarrassed. Lin Feng said, my words just now can't describe junior sister Bai. A woman like junior sister Bai should only exist in the heavens. How many times can there be in the mortal world? Buying you blushed and said, senior brother, you flatter me. Actually, I'm not as good as you say. Since senior brother is looking for a place to cultivate, then please follow me. When Bai Yingyu heard Lin Feng praising her, her impression of Lin Feng skyrocketed. Which woman didn't like to be praised? Moreover, Bai Yingyu was only a 17-year-old girl. Naturally, she was also vain. Bai Yingyu led the way while Lin Feng followed behind her. The demon lord said speechlessly, is it really okay to deceive such a naive girl? Lin Feng rolled his eyes and transmitted, nonsense. When did I deceive junior sister Bai? Junior sister Bai is like a pure fairy, hard to find in the mortal world. The demon lord said in a strange tone, no wonder you've provoked so many women. You're really universal. It seems like every time you see a beautiful woman, you praise them from the bottom of your heart and don't flatter them just to get them into your bed. I really admire you. Lin Feng could naturally hear the sarcasm in the demon lord's words. He was too lazy to respond to the demon lord. Bai Yingyu brought Lin Feng into an ancient forest that was filled with restrictions and danger. Bai Yingyu said, this is a forbidden place. It's a place where my master used to practice. I see that senior brother's requirements for a place to practice are quite strict, so I brought you here to practice. However, it's more difficult to have an epiphany in this place. Lin Feng said, thank you, junior sister. Whether or not I can gain enlightenment, as long as I work hard, I won't regret it. Bai Yingyu nodded. The two of them passed through many restrictions. A huge mountain range appeared in their line of sight. Bai Yingyu soared into the sky and flew toward the depths of the mountain range. Lin Feng followed closely behind. Finally, the two of them landed on the peak of the main mountain. Looking into the distance, a sea of clouds lingered, mountains and steep ridges. The scenery was beautiful. His mood seemed to have become a lot better. That is, suddenly, Lin Feng's pupil shrank. Chapter 1958. It was a stone man. Now, the stone man was sitting cross-legged, looking at the sea of clouds. This shocked Lin Feng. How could there be a stone man here? In the Stone Clan. The Stone Clan was definitely one of the top stone clans. And the strength of the Stone Clan was needless to say. Stone man. Lin Feng's voice became serious. At this time, Bai Yingyu said, you don't have to worry, it hasn't been born yet. You mean, it's still a stone man in the process of being born? Lin Feng said in shock. Yes. According to Master, when she obtained the Hongjun Dao field, this stone man was already here, looking at the sea of clouds and comprehending the heavenly Dao. So later, Master sat here with the stone man and comprehended together. Bai Yingyu said. Lin Feng was very surprised. He didn't expect there to be such a story. He walked towards the stone man and carefully looked at it. He saw that the stone man was sitting cross-legged, holding a flower with both hands, like a Buddhist monk, comprehending the heavenly Tao. Lin Feng couldn't help but touch his chin. This stone man was really extraordinary. It shocked and moved him. He put his hand on the stone man's body. Thump, thump, thump. Lin Feng was shocked, because he could actually hear the sound of a heartbeat. This made him very moved. Its vitality is very strong, Bai Yingyu said. Lin Feng nodded. This stone man's vitality was indeed very strong. Its heartbeat was very strong. He didn't know if it was because it was about to wake up. You can stay here and cultivate. I'm going out. I don't want to stay here. Bai Yingyu said, Junior sister, take care. Lin Feng waved at Bai Yingyu. Soon, he knew why Bai Yingyu didn't want to stay here. Because the stone man's hands were moving. The stone man's hands seemed to be changing seals. Seeing this scene, Lin Feng was so scared that he almost ran away. But fortunately, he still calmed his mind. Although the stone man was about to awaken, he had not fully awakened. At this stage, he should not be a threat. Seeing the stone man stop moving after changing the spell, Lin Feng was finally able to breathe a sigh of relief. He sat cross-legged beside the stone man and closed his eyes to comprehend the great Tao. Boom! Suddenly, Lin Feng immediately sensed a destructive force approaching him. It enveloped him within. That power. It was simply suffocating. Despicable creature, who are you? Suddenly, a loud shout resounded. Lin Feng opened his eyes. Then, he saw a stone golem standing above him. Now, the stone golem's cold gaze was fixed on him. Has the stone man woken up? Lin Feng's face revealed an aghast expression. The stone man had awakened. To him, it was bound to be catastrophic. Lin Feng wanted to escape, but to his horror, he discovered something. His body had actually been imprisoned. Despicable creature, you dare to trespass on my cultivation grounds. You deserve to die. Suddenly, the stone man let out a cold roar. Rumble. The stone man stretched out his large hand and attacked Lin Feng. Lin Feng's face revealed a horrified expression. This was because when the stone golem attacked, he felt a dense aura of death enveloping his body. That feeling was simply too terrible. It was a feeling that was enough to make one's spirit collapse instantly. But soon, Lin Feng felt that something was wrong. The stone man's awakening was too sudden. Moreover, the stone man's aura seemed to be off. It was far worse than what he had imagined. Although the stone man gave Lin Feng a feeling that it was very powerful, it lacked the stone man's domineering aura of fighting against the heavens and earth. Illusion. Lin Feng's expression darkened. He hurriedly activated Lu Yu's stargazing chart. Suddenly, the stone man in front of him disappeared without a trace. When Lin Feng opened his eyes, he discovered. He sat cross-legged next to the stone man, but the stone man didn't move at all. My will almost collapsed. This stone man is really evil. It can actually affect my mind. If it was someone else just now, I'm afraid that their will would have collapsed and they would have died from qi deviation. Lin Feng couldn't help but take a deep breath. The stone man was really too strange. Too terrifying. Fortunately, the stone man didn't wake up. After he calmed down, he continued to close his eyes and began to comprehend here. Time passed slowly. Lin Feng was gradually immersed in a mysterious and profound state of mind. He felt as if he had turned into a stone statue that would remain motionless since ancient times, watching the sea of clouds every day. In the sea of clouds, there was a Tao that he needed. The Tao in the sea of clouds. It could help him wake up. Time passed slowly like this. Finally, one day, Lin Feng found that his body could move. However, at this stage, only his hand could move. The rest of his body couldn't move. Immediately after, it was another long time. Perhaps it was a year. Perhaps it was 10 years. Perhaps it was 100 years. Perhaps it was 1,000 years. Perhaps it was 10,000 years. Perhaps it was 1,000,000 years, 10 million years, hundreds of millions of years. Perhaps it was even longer. Lin Feng found that he had lost track of time. And after such a long time, he could finally move. This was a body formed from stone. When the body stood up, it was already too late. It turned into a body of flesh and blood. Vaguely, he suddenly heard someone muttering to himself. After cultivating for hundreds of millions of years, the flesh and blood turned into stone man. The stone man watched the sea of clouds. If the flesh and blood were born, then it would be reincarnation. If the reincarnation appeared, then it would be eternal life. When he heard this voice, Lin Feng was very shocked. He could vaguely understand the meaning of this sentence. After cultivating for hundreds of millions of years, the flesh and blood turned into a stone man. The stone man sat here and watched the sea of clouds. If one day, my body turned from stone man to flesh and blood, this would be a new reincarnation. And at this time, I would be able to obtain eternal life. Although the words were short, although the content was also very short, but the contents of the book were too shocking. Eternal life was a fleeting legend. It was said that even immortals couldn't live forever. And this sentence contained some information about eternal life. What Lin Feng found most difficult to understand was that the flesh and blood turned into stone man. Some powerful stone man, after cultivating, might be able to take on the appearance of a human. But that was only the appearance of a human. Their bodies were still made of stone. Powerful cultivators could also transform into stone man, but this was only a transformation technique. Their bodies were still flesh and blood. So, this sentence contained too many things that Lin Feng felt puzzled. The divine picture appears, the cultivation method comes out, the stone man watches the sea of clouds. With a thought, he can become an immortal. With a thought, he can become a demon. At this time, another voice resounded in Lin Feng's mind. Chapter 1959. The ethereal voice resounded in Lin Feng's mind. Then, Lin Feng felt a huge amount of information surging into his mind. This information almost caused his mind to split open. There was too much information contained in this information, and it gave him a splitting headache. The intense pain soon disappeared. Lin Feng took a deep breath and used his divine will to invade the information he had obtained. Lin Feng found out. This information turned out to be a cultivation technique. This cultivation technique was called the sea-watching scripture. There was also an introduction to the sea-watching scripture. The sea-watching scripture was divided into two parts. The upper part of the sea-watching stone man could become an immortal or a demon with a single thought. It only introduced the upper part of the sea-watching scripture, not the lower part. This was because this was only the first half of the sea-watching scripture. The first half of the sea-watching scripture was equivalent to a quasi-immortal technique. If one could obtain the second half of the sea-watching scripture, it would be equivalent to an immortal technique. After reading this introduction, Lin Feng took a deep breath. Quasi-immortal technique? Immortal technique? The sea-watching scripture was so extraordinary. It's a pity that I only have the first half of the sea-watching scripture. Lin Feng could not help but mutter regretfully. However, although he only had the first half of the sea-watching scripture, this half of the sea-watching scripture was equivalent to a quasi-immortal technique. It surpassed an emperor technique. Its power would be extremely terrifying. I'll cultivate the first half of the sea-watching scripture successfully. I'll look for the second half of the sea-watching scripture in the future. Lin Feng made up his mind. Suddenly, a powerful energy wrapped around his body. Is it time? Lin Feng was a little speechless. He did not expect to spend almost a month in seclusion this time. However, the only thing he was thankful for was that he had comprehended the sea-watching scripture in time. If he had not comprehended it, he would have had to leave the Hongjun training hall. He would have missed the sea-watching scripture. Whoosh! There was a flash of light. Lin Feng realized he was already outside, but he wasn't in the Hongchuan celestial sect. This was the periphery of the space-time reversal sea region. From afar, one could see the space-time reversal storm raging in the space-time reversal sea region. Surrounded by the boundless sea, there was no one but Lin Feng himself. The Red World Fairy must have deliberately sent the cultivators who entered the Hongjun Taoist Hall out, and they appeared in different places. The Red World Fairy is really thoughtful. She sent them to different places. Even if there were cultivators who had designs on them, they would have no choice but to give up now. Lin Feng couldn't help but mutter. Lin Feng was flying above the boundless sea. Now, he had two plans. The first plan was to return to the mainland and go to the Evil Goo sect. He hoped to find a way to neutralize Li Yingdie's heart-biting goo. His second plan was to establish his own forces in the overseas world. The overseas world was so huge. There were countless powerful cultivators. As long as he was willing to pay the price, he would definitely be able to form a powerful force. Moreover, as long as they were successful, he wouldn't even need to recruit them. There would definitely be many overseas rogue cultivators coming to join him. Everyone knew that it was better to lean against a big tree for shade. The demon lord seemed to know what Lin Feng was thinking and said, "The Evil Goo sect is an evil force. With your current strength, You'll be courting death if you go to the evil goose sect. Not only will you not be able to save Li Yingdai, but you'll also die. If you want a force like the evil goose sect to agree to help you, there's only one way, and that is to be strong enough. Even if they're unwilling to help you, they'll have to consider whether it's worth offending you. Lin Feng nodded. He already understood what the Demon Lord wanted to say. The most important thing now was to establish his own force. It was impossible to go to the evil goose sect alone. This force was too powerful. If he went, he probably wouldn't be able to come out alive. He had to go. He had to bring a group of experts with him. He had to go in a mighty manner. He had to let the evil goose sect know the power he had. Where should I go in the boundless sea? Lin Feng couldn't help but mutter to himself. You can ask that little mermaid. The Demon Lord said. Myriad Star Island was located at the intersection of the Southern Immortal Sea, the Space-Time Reversal Sea, and the Returning Ruins Sea. This island was incomparably huge, and it was an important port for entering and exiting the three seas. It was also a very famous gathering place for itinerant cultivators on the sea. Countless powerful itinerant cultivators gathered here. And now, Lin Feng and Naza had arrived at Myriad Star Island. Naza had been here once before, so she still had some memories of many places. Oceanids could be seen everywhere on Myriad Star Island. Myriad Star Island had all kinds of people, humans, Yao, devil, Oceanids, and so on. They could all be seen on Myriad Star Island. There are many factions on Myriad Star Island, and these factions are all formed by itinerant cultivators. It's said that there are hundreds of factions of various sizes. We can ask around at the all-knowing pavilion for more details, Naza said. Lin Feng nodded. Every time one arrived at a place, it was very important to know the division of factions in that place. Lin Feng and Naza walked toward the all-knowing pavilion. The all-knowing pavilion had a wide range of sources of information. They could find out many secrets. Of course, the prerequisite was that one had enough money. This world was just so cruel. Without money, it was simply impossible to move an inch. Lin Feng and Naza arrived at the all-knowing pavilion together. They stayed at the all-knowing pavilion for 2 hours. Only then did the two of them leave. Then, Lin Feng and Naza looked for a place to stay. Lin Feng booked a courtyard in the Myriad Star Inn's Biayuan district. Bang, bang, bang. Not long after, there was a knock on the door. Naza went to open the door. She saw a slightly wretched-looking fatso standing outside. Who are you? What's the matter? Naza asked suspiciously. Fatso said, I am the person in charge of this Biayuan district. I would like to see your young master. Come in. Lin Feng's voice came from inside. Naza led this fatso into the living room and poured 2 cups of tea. Seeing Fatso's hesitant look, Lin Feng knew that this fatso had some things that he couldn't say in front of Naza. Lin Feng said, Naza, go to the room and see if there is anything dirty. Clean it carefully. Naza nodded obediently and went to the 2nd floor. Lin Feng said, if you have something to say, then say it. Young master, there will be an auction tonight. There will be several top-quality women being auctioned. Fatso said, this kind of thing happened everywhere. Naza was bought by Lin Feng at the auction. Those who could live here were either rich or noble. Therefore, Fatso came to ask Lin Feng. If they could help the auction house attract customers, they would get a commission. Lin Feng was not interested in this kind of auction. He said indifferently, forget about this kind of thing. I am not interested. Fatso said, young master, those women are not simple. One of them has the water spirit body, 2 of them have the Yin spirit body, and 2 of them have the ice spirit body. Lin Feng was slightly shocked. These were the 3 great dual cultivation physiques in the world of cultivators. If he were to dual cultivate with such women, his cultivation would advance by leaps and bounds. Chapter 1960. Where's the auction going to be held? Lin Feng asked. If you want to go, there'll be a carriage coming to pick you up tonight, Fatso said. All right, Lin Feng said. Then I won't disturb you any longer. Fatso stood up and left. After waiting for Fatso to leave, Lin Feng walked towards his room and found that Naza was actually cleaning it. This girl was too naive. Brother Lin, you're done with your discussion, Naza said. Lin Feng nodded and smiled. I'll bring you to a place tonight. Get ready. We'll We'll be heading out for dinner. Nazar nodded obediently and went back to her room to dress up. Not long after, Lin Feng and Naza went out. They chose a restaurant and ordered a table full of dishes. Bei Bei and the dragon rabbit, these two greedy little cats, couldn't help but fly out of the mountain river ring. They started eating meat and drinking wine. The two of them drank until they couldn't even stand straight. Lin Feng wanted to ask the four holy birds and the soul-devouring beast if they wanted to come out and enjoy the food. The four holy birds were in seclusion, and the soul-devouring beast wasn't interested in the food. To the soul-devouring beast, souls were the most delicious things. After having a good meal, Lin Feng and Na Zha went back to their residence. There was already a carriage waiting for them outside. Fatso was waiting there as well. When he saw Lin Feng and Naza return, he smiled and said, "Young master, the carriage is ready. When will you be leaving?" "Let's go now," Lin Feng said. He then got on the carriage with Naza. "Young master, take care." Fatso waved his hand. The carriage driver drove the carriage away. "Brother Lin, where are we going?" Naza asked. "The auction house," Lin Feng said. Naza's eyes lit up. "I heard that many treasures will appear at the auction house. I haven't been there yet. I'll be able to broaden my horizons today." Lin Feng said, "It's not an auction house for auctioning items, but an auction house for the auctioneer." Huh. Naza's pretty face turned pale with fright. She recalled the scene of her being auctioned off in the past, and her body trembled slightly. Lin Feng rubbed Nazar's head and said, "Don't be afraid. With me around, no one can hurt you." Naza nodded and moved closer to Lin Feng. Lin Feng could even smell the fragrance coming from Naza's body. Soon, they arrived at the auction house. This auction house was called the Blackstone Auction House. People came and went, and it was bustling with noise and excitement. Lin Feng and Nazar got off the carriage and walked towards the auction house. A mermaid!" Someone exclaimed in surprise. It was a man who looked to be around 30 years old. He wore a golden robe and had more than 20 attendants by his side. Moreover, each of them had a beautiful woman in their arms. After seeing Naza, the man couldn't take his eyes off her. "Young master, aren't we beautiful?" That was why he offended Zhang Zilong. In many people's eyes, Lin Feng had offended Zhang Zilong. He was doomed. Zhang Zilong was a notorious thug. What kind of heartless things hadn't he done? In the past, he had even raped a man's wife in front of her husband. He was worse than a beast. But who told Zhang Zilong to have such a powerful backer? He still lived a carefree life. Just when everyone thought that Lin Feng was doomed, everyone was shocked to see Lin Feng stepped forward, a powerful aura emanating from his body. Thump, thump, thump. Lin Feng walked towards Zhang Zilong step by step. Zhang Zilong's guards couldn't bear the powerful aura emanating from Lin Feng's body and all knelt on the ground. Chapter 1961. Heavens! How is this possible? What's that kid's cultivation? Many people couldn't help but cry out in alarm, their faces filled with shock. Lin Feng hadn't even made a move. He'd only released his aura. So many experts couldn't bear it and knelt on the ground. After all, among the kneeling guards, there were 7 or 8 divine flame cultivators. Among independent cultivators, divine flame cultivators were considered experts. Lin Feng had used his aura to suppress so many experts. How strong did he have to be to do that? Could it be a true divinity realm cultivator? That kid is so young, but he's already a true god. He shouldn't be an independent cultivator. He's probably from a major faction. That's right. He's most likely a disciple of a major faction who's passing through Myriad Stars Island. This is interesting. I wonder how that kid will deal with Zhang Zilong. Zhang Zilong might not be a good person, but he's the only son of the whale gang's leader. If he touches him, he'll have a complete falling out with the whale gang. Even a powerful dragon can't suppress a local snake. Many people were discussing the matter. They didn't lower their voices, as if deliberately letting Lin Feng hear them. They were using this method to tell Lin Feng not to touch Zhang Zilong. Once Zhang Zilong was touched, it would be a huge disaster. Lin Feng was grateful for the warning. However, Lin Feng didn't plan on letting Zhang Zilong off. What the hell? How dare he try to touch the woman by my side? He really doesn't know the difference between life and death. You. What do you want? Let me tell you, my father is the leader of the Whale Gang, a famous faction on Myriad Stars Island. He's a peak expert on Myriad Stars Island, a celestial god. If you dare touch me, you'll be finished. No one will be able to save you then. Zhang Zilong threatened. He wanted to use his father to scare Lin Feng away. A celestial god? Lin Feng sneered. Even if your father comes, I can still crush him. When he heard Lin Feng's arrogant words, Zhang Zilong was stunned. Zhang Zilong suddenly became speechless. The people who were watching the show were also stunned. The corner of his mouth twitched violently. Wasn't this guy too arrogant? He actually dared to say that he could crush a heavenly god powerhouse to death? Bragging didn't cost money. You can brag as much as you want, right? Kid, who do you think you are? You actually dare to say such reckless words? Zhang Zilong glared at Lin Feng. A mere heavenly god is nothing to me. Even if an ancestor-level cultivator comes, I can still kill them. Lin Feng said indifferently. Many people began to wail. Big brother, can you please stop bragging? In the eyes of the surrounding people, Lin Feng was simply too good at bragging. They had never seen someone as good at bragging as Lin Feng. Zhang Zilong said with a gloomy look, You do have some strength, but you've gone too far. This was the Myriad Stars Island. If you're a dragon, you should be coiled up. If you're a tiger, you should be lying on the ground. Puff. As soon as Zhang Zilong finished speaking, a tearing sound was heard. Zhang Zilong couldn't help but let out a miserable cry. The tendon of Zhang Zilong's right leg was directly cut off by Lin Feng. Puff. A second tearing sound was heard. Zhang Zilong's left leg's tendon was also cut off. Zhang Zilong fell to the ground. Puff. Puff. Next, two more tearing sounds were heard in succession. The tendons on Zhang Zilong's arms were also cut off by Lin Feng. Blood kept gushing out. Everyone looked at Lin Feng in shock. No one had expected this. Lin Feng actually cut off Zhang Zilong's tendons. What was the difference between this and crippling Zhang Zilong? A devilish smile appeared on Lin Feng's face. He looked at Zhang Zilong and said with a smile, How dare a trash like you offend me? Normally, you would be a dead man. But for a scum like you, killing you is too easy. I should cripple you. That's the biggest punishment for you. As soon as he finished speaking, Lin Feng raised his right hand. Another sword energy swept out. This time, it swept directly between Zhang Zilong's legs. Puff. A tearing sound was heard. Blood splattered. Zhang Zilong let out a miserable cry. At that moment, many male cultivators who were watching the show couldn't help but clamp their legs together. Everyone looked at Lin Feng as if they were looking at a devil. Zhang Zilong was actually not finished after being crippled. He actually made Zhang Zilong unable to be a man. However, many people felt very satisfied. This Zhang Zilong made many people gnash their teeth in hatred. Who knew how many people wanted nothing more than to tear him to shreds? However, Zhang Zilong was backed by the Whale Gang. Who dared to offend him? Now that Zhang Zilong was crippled, the rest of his life would be worse than death. Many people felt very satisfied. Let's go. Lin Feng looked at Naza and said. Then, he and Naza entered the auction house together. Damn, this kid didn't run after crippling Zhang Zilong? This guy is not only good at bragging, but he also has guts. After crippling Zhang Zilong, not only did he not run, he actually swaggered into the auction house. Isn't he afraid that the Whale Gang will come to stop him? Does he have something to rely on? Maybe he has some powerful magic treasure on him. That's really possible. If he has a powerful magic treasure on him, that would explain why this kid is so good at bragging. The Whale Gang won't let this go. Let's just wait here and watch the show. The surrounding cultivators all began to talk. Quickly carry the young master back, the guard beside Zhang Zilong said. Then, a group of people carefully carried the unconscious Zhang Zilong away. The Blackstone auction house was a 100-meter-tall building. Chapter 1962. The auction house was huge, and there were all sorts of items being auctioned here. Of course, the items being auctioned here were people, beautiful women, beastman slaves, devil slaves, human slaves, demon slaves, and so on. Anything that one could think of. Everything was here. Everything could be found. There were a total of 12 auctions here. The higher one went, the higher the standard of the auctions. 5 top-grade cultivation cauldrons were being auctioned on the 12th floor. Lin Feng and Naza arrived at the 12th floor. The place was already packed with people. When they arrived on the 12th floor, Lin Feng saw a beautiful woman walking towards him and Naza. The charming woman bowed slightly to Lin Feng before she smiled and said, "Young master, is this your first time here?" Lin Feng nodded and said, "That's right. This is my first time here." The woman smiled and asked, "Young master, may I know your name?" Lin Feng replied calmly, "I'm Lin Feng." "Oh, Lin Feng? The Lin Feng from the Reincarnation Immortal sect?" The woman looked at Lin Feng in surprise. Clearly, she had heard of Lin Feng's name before. However, she was surprised to see him here. She also did not expect Lin Feng to not hide his identity. Lin Feng nodded and said, "That's right. Fairy, may I know your name?" "My name is Yu Lianwei. Young master, you can call me Lianwei or Wei-er." The woman smiled and said. Lin Feng couldn't help but mutter inwardly, "Beauty, this is our first time meeting. Aren't you being too enthusiastic? Isn't that a little too intimate? Others might think that we're old lovers. You're not thinking of seducing me, right?" Lin Feng naturally wouldn't say these words out loud. He smiled at Yu Lianwei and said, "Then I'll call you Fairy Wei-er from now on. It'll sound more intimate." Yu Lianwei smiled charmingly and said, "Young master, you're so considerate." Lin Feng smiled at Yu Lianwei and asked, "Fairy, do you work in this auction house?" Yu Lianwei replied, "I'm the vice president of the auction house." Lin Feng was a little surprised. He hadn't thought that Yu Lianwei's identity would be so extraordinary. It seemed that this woman's background was very deep. Otherwise, she wouldn't have taken on such a heavy responsibility at such a young age. Yu Lianwei smiled and said, "This isn't the place to talk. Why don't we go to a private room?" "Thank you for leading the way, Wei-er." Lin Feng nodded. "You don't have to be so polite, young master." Yu Lianwei charmingly smiled and then led the way. The way she walked was really nice. It fully displayed the beauty of a woman. After entering the private room, a maidservant poured spirit tea for the 3 of them. Yu Lianwei glanced at Naza and said, "This little mermaid is really amazing. No wonder the prince was so angry. If I was a man, I would definitely be like him." Lin Feng said, "Naza is the one who deserves my life." Next, the auction items were brought out one by one. Beautiful women from various clans. It was simply dazzling. Some of the women were cultivated by the auction house, while others were slaves purchased from other places. There were also some women obtained through other channels. These women's identities were naturally different. However, no matter what their identities were in the past, they were now just auction items. Lin Feng had been watching from the sidelines and did not participate in any of the bidding. Rumble, rumble. A series of loud noises rang out. Then, a huge iron cage was pushed onto the auction stage. In the iron cage, there were chains that bound a 3-meter-tall orc. This orc looked very similar to a human, but its physique was much larger than a human's. This was also a characteristic of the orc race. Its body was incomparably strong. It's very rare to see an orc that has evolved so perfectly. Lin Feng could not help but look at the orc in the iron cage in surprise. P.S. The Archean Dragonesque Elephant Skillbook was released on August 9th last year. Until today, Old Mantu has updated 2 million words in a year. He is one of the best in the entire online literature world. I dare to ask for monthly votes, recommendation votes, and rewards for this 1-year anniversary. Thank you, everyone. Chapter 1963. This beastman is called Wan and Yang. He's the young master of a primitive tribe. It's said that this tribe used to be very powerful, but as time passed, the tribe gradually declined. However, this tribe possessed a powerful treasure. Later, they were targeted by others and were exterminated. Now, there aren't many of them left. Those who survived have all become slaves. Yu Lianwei said. Lin Feng couldn't help but frown slightly. Their fate is very tragic. In the world of cultivators, there are too many people whose fates are very tragic. Yes, this is a world where people eat people without spitting out the bones. Yu Lianwei sighed and said, "Everyone, this beastman is called the Heavenly Mark Beastman, one of the most ancient beastman tribes. This beastman slave is called Wan Yin-yang. He can tear a giant dragon apart with his bare hands. He's definitely a very powerful slave. With such a slave by your side as a guard, your safety is guaranteed." The auctioneer began to introduce Wan Yin-yang. Many people began to talk about it. To be able to tear a giant dragon apart with his bare hands, this was definitely a terrifying expert. Thus, the beastman Wan Yin-yang attracted the attention of many people. The auctioneer continued, "Wan Yin-yang's starting price is 2 million. Each increment must be no less than 200,000. The auction starts now. 2, 3 million. 2, 5 million. 3 million. Many people participated in the competition. Wan Yin-yang's value was incomparable to those female slaves. Those female slaves were only sold for pleasure. But Wan Yin-yang was an expert. There were many female slaves that could be bought at any time. However, a powerful beastman slave like Wan Yin-yang was too rare. Wan Yin-yang's price continued to soar. It didn't take long for it to break through 10 million origin crystals. However, this price didn't stop. Soon, it broke through 20 million, 30 million, 40 million. Finally, the price stopped at 120 million origin crystals. At 120 million origin crystals, no one was bidding anymore. Just when everyone thought that the auction would end at this price, a voice suddenly resounded in the auction hall. 200 million. Lin Feng shouted his bid. Young master is really rich," Yu Lianwei said with a smile. Lin Feng smiled and said, "This amount of money is nothing to me. It's not even worth mentioning. This concubine has indeed heard of it. The outside world says that young master's money seems to be inexhaustible. Could it be that young master has obtained several immortal mansions? There's a huge amount of wealth inside?" Yu Lianwei probed. Lin Feng said with a smile, "It's not convenient to talk about this." Yu Lianwei snorted and said, "Young master is so bad. You didn't even tell me such a thing. It's not a secret." Yu Lianwei's voice was so soft that it could seep into one's bones. However, Lin Feng looked calm and collected. What kind of woman had he not seen before? Yu Lianwei was beautiful. However, it was still difficult for his mental state to fluctuate too much. In the end, Lin Feng successfully bought the beastman Wan Yin-yang for 200 million origin crystals. Following that, another auction item was pushed out one after another. Among them, there was no lack of experts with extraordinary strength. Lin Feng continued to bid for several powerful slaves. Soon, another auction item was pushed onto the stage. This time, it was a woman. Moreover, it was a very beautiful woman. However, there was not a trace of emotion in this woman's eyes. Her body also emitted waves of cold aura. This female slave is called Butterfly. She was originally a member of an assassin organization. However, this assassin organization was destroyed and this woman was captured. Everyone, this woman is not simple. She has a heavenly god cultivation base and is proficient in all kinds of assassination techniques. It is said that a giant god-level powerhouse personally took action to suppress her. The starting price of this woman is 10 million origin crystals. Each increment must not be less than 1 million. The auction begins now, the female auctioneer said. Boom! The entire auction house was in an uproar. A heavenly god-level female assassin was now a slave. Anyone would be tempted. 15 million. 20 million. Soon, many people participated in the bidding. The bidding became even more intense. Not long after, it broke through 100 million, and it was still rising. The final price reached 300 million. A heavenly god-level female assassin. Many times, she could indeed help her master do many things. Moreover, such a female assassin's ability was outstanding and could be trained into a powerful team of assassins. 400 million. Lin Feng bid. Many people began to discuss because Lin Feng had already bid for many slaves, and he was generous. Now that Lin Feng had participated in the bidding for this female assassin, the other competitors were in trouble. 420 million. Someone continued to raise the price. 1 billion. Lin Feng said indifferently. Suddenly, the entire auction house became silent. Many people were smiling bitterly. Lin Feng did not treat money as money at all. If this continued, who could afford to play? In the end, this female assassin was bought by Lin Feng for 1 billion. Next, another auction item was pushed out for auction. However, Lin Feng did not participate in the bidding after that, until 5 cultivation furnaces were pushed out. Of these 5 women, 1 was a demon girl, 1 was a demon girl, 2 were human girls, and 1 was an angel girl. Everyone, these 5 women are the highlight of this auction. This time, our auction house intends to auction all 5 of them at once. The starting price of the 5 cultivation furnaces is 15 million origin crystals. The minimum bid increment must not be less than 5 million. Chapter 1964. The bidding was getting more and more intense, and the price was getting higher and higher. When the price reached 6 billion, the cultivators started to withdraw. 2 billion. When Lin Feng saw that it was about time, he shouted out a bid. It's this guy again, everyone. Since there are 5 human cauldrons, let's work together and discuss how we should auction them later. What do you think? Some of the cultivators started to communicate with each other. Lin Feng's appearance made them feel pressured, and they felt that it would be difficult to win the bid. Only by working together would they have a chance. No problem. Let's work together then. Soon, they reached an agreement. 1 billion. One of them shouted out a new bid. Seeing that the price was still rising to 2 billion, many people became excited. Both sides seemed to be going against each other. There was going to be a good show to watch. 10 billion. Lin Feng said calmly. Soon, the entire auction house became so silent that one could hear a pin drop. The cultivators who had joined hands to bid were trembling. Then, their faces turned gloomy. Isn't he too rich? He had raised the price from 1 billion to 10 billion in one go. He really doesn't care about money at all. In the private room, after hearing Lin Feng's bid, Yu Lianwei's pink lips opened slightly. She was obviously shocked. Everyone outside was in a state of deep shock. How rich is this guy? How can he be so extravagant? How dare he show off his wealth? He's courting death. Some people were secretly communicating, revealing their killing intent. The fastest way to get rich was to kill others and steal their treasures. This was too common. Now that Lin Feng had revealed that he had so many treasures, it was natural that many people were interested in him. Yu Lianwei said, although I'm from the auction house and hope that the auction house can sell the items for a sky-high price, I'm also a friend of young master. From a friend's point of view, I'm afraid that young master will cause some trouble by revealing his wealth tonight. Lin Feng smiled. Trouble? If those people were here, not only would we be able to recoup our expenses, we might even be able to make a profit. Hearing Lin Feng's words, Yu Lianwei immediately knew what Lin Feng was thinking. She smiled bitterly. The 5 cultivation furnaces were bought by Lin Feng for 10 billion. Lin Feng wasn't interested in watching the rest of the auction. He and Naza followed Yu Lianwei out of the box. After arriving at the VIP lounge, Lin Feng paid the full amount. Yu Lianwei then took out a jade tube. She handed the jade tube to Lin Feng and said, every slave has a special slave mark. This jade tube contains the method to control their slave mark. It's very simple. You should be able to learn it after reading it a few times. Once you master the method, you'll be able to control their slave mark. Once you control their slave mark, you'll be able to control their lives. They'll never be able to betray you. Lin Feng nodded and scanned the contents with his divine sense. This was a spell to control the slave mark. After circulating it twice, he grasped it. Moreover, he could vaguely sense a dozen emotions. These emotions were transmitted to him by the slaves. There were emotions of despair, fear, uneasiness, coldness. Everyone's emotions were different. Lin Feng asked Yu Lianwei to bring in the slaves. Before long, the slaves were all brought in. The slaves stood in a row. Yu Lianwei said, this is your new master, Lin Feng, Lin Gongzi. You're lucky to be able to follow Lin Gongzi. Greetings, master. The slaves bowed to Lin Feng. They would rather become slaves than die. This meant that they wanted to live. Perhaps it was because of hatred or some other reason. However, they didn't want to die. Since they didn't want to die, they had to be respectful to their master. Only then would they be able to live. Lin Feng didn't respond. Instead, he carefully examined the slaves. The female assassin, Butterfly, should be at the 6th or 7th layer of the heavenly god realm. Moreover, she was an assassin. Her methods were very strange. Ordinary heavenly gods would have a hard time capturing her even if they could defeat her. It was no wonder that a giant god realm expert had to personally take action to suppress her. The beastman Wan Yin was also at the 3rd layer of the heavenly god realm. Of course, as the most ancient beastman race, the heavenly patterned beastman race, his talent was heaven-defying. Moreover, it was said that beastmen who awakened heavenly patterns were even more powerful. Apart from these two who had reached the heavenly god realm, there were 8 other slaves. All of them were quasi-heavenly god realm experts. Their strength wasn't bad. That was why Lin Feng had bought them. Of the 5 female slaves, 2 were at the true god realm. The remaining 3 were at the divine flame realm. They weren't very strong, but they weren't weak either. I know that some of you are alive for various reasons. Perhaps it's because of unavenged hatred or other reasons. However, since you've become my slaves, I won't restrict you from taking revenge or doing other things. Moreover, as long as you're loyal and devoted, I'll remove your slave status and restore your freedom in the future. Lin Feng's voice was sonorous and forceful. For these slaves, removing their slave status was naturally the most attractive thing to them. As expected, when Lin Feng mentioned removing their slave status, their eyes lit up. Everyone's eyes suddenly lit up. This subordinate will definitely be loyal and devoted to serve master. The group hurriedly expressed their loyalty to Lin Feng. Lin Feng nodded in satisfaction. He glanced at Yu Lianwei and said, "Waiter, it's getting late. We'll be heading back first." Yu Lianwei smiled. "I'll send the young master off through the safe passage. I don't want to be blocked by the whale gang and cause trouble." A mere whale gang can be destroyed with the flick of a finger. It's no big deal. There's no need to be so careful, Lin Feng said calmly. Yu Lianwei smiled. "Then I'll send the young master off." Lin Feng nodded. Lin Feng walked out of the auction house with Yu Lianwei accompanying him. Yu Lianwei was on his left, and Na Jia was on his right. 2 beautiful women accompanied him, drawing envious gazes from time to time. A group of slaves followed behind them. These slaves' impression of Lin Feng stopped at the fact that he was especially rich. The slaves were also trying to guess Lin Feng's identity. Could he be the successor of some top-tier faction? Yu Lianwei escorted Lin Feng and the others out of the auction house. As soon as they came out, several hundred cultivators swarmed over and surrounded Lin Feng's group. "Look, that kid came out. He's been surrounded by the whale gang." Many cultivators who were waiting outside to watch the show pointed at Lin Feng and the others, who were surrounded at the entrance of the auction house. Chapter 1965. Brat, how dare you cripple our young master? You must be tired of living. Brothers, let's attack together and tear this brat into 1,000 pieces. A quasi-heavenly god expert roared. "Kill!" Several hundred people roared and charged at Lin Feng's group. They were all members of the whale gang. There was no order to the fights between these gangs. Everything was chaotic. That was why so many cultivators charged forward. "Deal with them," Lin Feng ordered calmly. "Yes, master." Butterfly, Wan Yin, and the others answered. Then, they all charged forward. 2 heavenly god stage powerhouses. 8 quasi-celestial gods. Such a force would be considered the best of the best no matter where they went. Not to mention, the strongest of the whale gang members were only quasi-celestial gods. In front of Butterfly, Wan Yin, and the others, they were nothing more than a mob. Pooh, pooh. The sound of something being torn apart rang out one after another. This was a completely one-sided battle. Lin Feng's subordinates snatched some weapons from the whale gang members. Then, they slaughtered their way into the crowd. It was as if they had entered a no-man's land. Corpses fell one after another. Not long after, several hundred people were killed. Not a single one managed to escape. Heavens! How are those people so powerful? Wasn't that brat alone when he entered the auction house? Why are there so many people following him? Could they all be slaves bought from the auction house? That's very likely. But those slaves are so strong that they're freakishly strong. Especially that woman and that beast man. They could kill a dozen whale gang members with a single move. They're not even on the same level. That brat is definitely not a simple character. Many cultivators who were watching the show discussed spiritedly. Their hearts were filled with shock. Master, it's been dealt with, Butterfly said. Lin Feng nodded. He stepped over the corpses and walked into the distance. Everyone followed behind Lin Feng and quickly left. After Lin Feng left, Yu Lianwei went to the room on the top floor. That frosty woman was standing by the window, watching Lin Feng and the others leave in a daze. The woman said, "This person appeared on Myriad Star Island. Looks like he's not just passing by." Yu Lianwei said, "This person spends money like water. Who knows how much wealth he has?" Moreover, he had bought so many powerful slaves at a high price. His goal is definitely not simple. I think this person wants to establish his own force overseas. Quite ambitious. The woman who was as cold as ice said. This woman was called Long Qiuchan. Like Yu Lianwei, he was also the vice president of the auction house. Which man doesn't want to make a name for themselves? Hold great power? Moreover, this was the 9 prefectures. The various powers were trying to set up an independent regime. Who wouldn't want to be a king? Without power in their hands, they were destined to be nothing more than passers-by in the 9 prefectures. Like a fleeting cloud, vanishing with the wind. Yu Lianwei said, "Yes." Lung Qiuchan nodded and asked, "What do you plan to do?" "This man has piqued my interest," Yu Lianwei said with a charming smile. Her enchanting figure lay lazily on the soft sofa, outlining her perfect curves. It was enough to make one's blood boil. The whale gang has someone supporting them. They won't let this matter rest. Long Qiuchan said, "The 9th evil dragon? That's indeed a huge problem. From what I know, this person has a grudge with the evil dragon palace. It seems like the 9th evil dragon will send experts to kill him together with the whale gang. For now, let's just wait and see." Yu Lianwei said, "The evil dragon palace is extremely powerful. If he wants to establish his own force in the sea, he will have to face many difficulties. The evil dragon palace is one of them." Long Qiuchan said, "If he really wants to establish himself in the sea, he will have to face more than just the evil dragon palace." Yu Lianwei said. After returning to his residence, Lin Feng asked Naza to arrange a place for everyone to stay. Lin Feng, Naza, and the other women stayed upstairs. The rest of the people lived downstairs. Lin Feng conversed with the 5 female slaves. The demon slave was called Imo Wuyo. The name sounded a little strange, but it was in line with the demon race's characteristics. The demon slave was called Su'er. The 2 human slaves were sisters. The elder sister was called Yuzaik, and the younger sister was called Yuliuji. The angel slave was called Inya. The 5 female slaves were somewhat unnatural when facing Lin Feng. They knew why Lin Feng had bought them. They also knew what their fate was. However, they were still very shy. The only thing that made them rejoice was that the person who had bought them was a young and handsome man. He wasn't one of those old men. Lin Feng didn't have them serve him. He just wanted to get to know them for now. Then, he left and returned to his own room. Wanyan Yang requests an audience with Master. Wanyan Yang's voice came from outside. Lin Feng said, "Come in." Wanyan Yang pushed open the door and entered, then bowed to Lin Feng. "What? Is something the matter?" Lin Feng looked at Wanyan Yang. "Master, this subordinate has a presumptuous request," said Wanyan Yang. "Tell me," said Lin Feng. "There is still a group of people from my clan who are imprisoned in the slave market. Because they are old, weak, sick, and disabled, very few people would buy them. Master, please be merciful and save them." Wanyan Yang pleaded. A hero at the end of his road? Seeing Wanyan Yang, Lin Feng couldn't help but sigh. His clan used to be at its peak, but it gradually declined. Now, it was close to being exterminated. Wanyan Yang had become a slave, and there was nothing he could do. It made one sigh. "All right, bring me to the slave market tomorrow," said Lin Feng. Many thanks, master. Wang Yang thanked Lin Feng profusely. After Wang Yang left, Lin Feng couldn't help but smile bitterly. He had bought a slave. He actually wanted to save the slave's clan. What was going on? Who asked this young master to be so kind-hearted? Lin Feng couldn't help but praise his noble character. The next day, Lin Feng followed Wang Yang to the slave market. The slave market on Myriad Stars Island was huge. On this trip to the slave market, Lin Feng planned to buy some powerful slaves. These slaves could become his first batch of subordinates when he established a force overseas. Lin Feng strolled around the slave market for half a day and bought all the slaves at the True God realm and above. There were about 1,000 people in total. Most of these slaves with decent strength were captured by the defeated side after some large forces killed each other for vengeance. It would be a pity to kill them directly. Therefore, he might as well sell them to human traffickers. He could also earn a large sum of origin crystals. Why not? Chapter 1966. Currently, Wang Yang had over 300 clansmen. Most of them were old people, but there were also some women and children. Lin Feng also bought them. Lin Feng arranged accommodations for these slaves. He stayed for another day and bought all kinds of necessities. Lin Feng planned to leave. He had gathered many experts under his command. It was time to find a place to establish his own force. Lin Feng took out the ancient starship Xianyuan, and everyone boarded it. Then, the ancient ship flew out of Myriad Star Island. When they arrived outside Myriad Star Island, suddenly, loud rumbling sounds could be heard. Ancient warships flew out one after another. These ancient warships flew the evil dragon flag. Clearly, they were from the evil dragon palace. The evil dragon palace's ancient warships surrounded the Xianyuan ancient starry sky ship. The evil dragon palace's warships? It must be the whale gang's Zhang Shuxian, who went to call for reinforcements. When Zhang Shuxian founded the whale gang, the evil dragon palace's people secretly helped him. The whale gang is just a tool for the evil dragon palace to amass wealth. News of the conflict between Lin Feng and the whale gang had spread. Some people had been secretly observing the development of the situation. Therefore, when they saw the ancient warships of the evil dragon palace surrounding Lin Feng's Xianyuan, they began to discuss it. Of course, most people didn't understand what was going on. Who was inside the ancient ship surrounded by the evil dragon palace's ancient warships? Lin Feng, you brat. You won't be able to escape today. A cold voice rang out. Then, the Longyuan sect walked out of the main warship. Isn't that the Longyuan sect? Why is he missing an arm? Many cultivators who were watching the show looked at each other in dismay. The Longyuan sect was a famous expert. He was an ancestor-level expert. He was one of the top 5 experts under the 9th evil dragon. Now that he was actually missing an arm, many people were incomparably shocked and astonished. Lin Feng came out of the cabin and looked at Long Yuanzong indifferently. Long Yuanzong, last time, I cut off one of your arms. You didn't rest and recuperate. Surprisingly, you came out so quickly. I hadn't thought you would be in such a hurry to die. Since that's the case, I'll send you to the Western Paradise. What? The brat chopped off the Longyuan sect's arm? Heavens! How is that possible? The Longyuan sect is an ancestor-level expert. Many people cried out in disbelief. No one found it strange that the Longyuan sect had chopped off Longyuan sect's arm, but Lin Feng had's arm. When everybody saw Long Yuanzong's gloomy face, they knew that Lin Feng wasn't lying. There was no need to. Long Yuanzong looked at Lin Feng with hatred and said coldly, "Little boy, if I hadn't been plotted against by you, would I have lost an arm? Today, I'll tear you to pieces." As soon as he finished speaking, he waved his right hand. More than a dozen ancient warships quickly separated, blocking all escape routes. Seeing that a great battle was about to break out, Lin Feng returned to the cabin. Fire! The Longyuan sect roared. Boom, boom, boom. The ancient warships of the evil dragon palace have launched an attack. That ancient ship won't be destroyed in an instant, right? Many people cried out in alarm. Clearly, the cultivators who were watching the show believed that Lin Feng was doomed. How could an ancient ship resist the enemy's fleet? Fire! In the control room of the ancient ship, Xianyuan, shouted Lin Feng at the same time, giving the order to open fire. Boom, boom. Under the control of the human-shaped puppet, the ancient ship also began to fire. Countless cannonballs flew out. Many cannonballs collided with the spirit stone cannonballs fired by the ancient warships of the evil dragon palace. They directly exploded. Many cannonballs also flew towards the ancient warships of the evil dragon palace. At the same time, the spirit stone cannonballs fired by the ancient warships of the evil dragon palace also rapidly flew towards the ancient ship. Boom, boom, boom. The spirit stone cannonballs exploded after hitting the restrictions protecting the ship. The ancient ship's restrictions were abnormally powerful. Therefore, even when the spirit stone cannonballs bombarded the ancient ship's restrictions, they couldn't destroy them. Moreover, the spirit stone cannonballs of the ancient ship were reinforced by Emperor runes. They had a long range and great power. The spirit stone cannonballs bombarded the restrictions of the ancient warships of the evil dragon palace. Crack, crack. The restrictions of the ancient warships couldn't withstand the bombardment of the spirit stone cannonballs. Many of the restrictions began to shatter. When the second wave of spirit stone cannonballs arrived, the restrictions on the ancient warships of the evil dragon palace began to crumble. When the third wave of spirit stone cannonballs arrived, crack, crack, crack. In an instant, the ancient warships were heavily damaged. The severely damaged ancient warships began to disintegrate. Run! The cultivators on the ancient warships screamed in terror. They wanted to abandon their ships and flee. However, before they could escape, the spirit stone cannonballs bombarded them once again. Boom, boom, boom. The spirit stone cannonballs exploded. Many cultivators were directly blasted to death. The ancient warships were sunk one after another. Heavens! That ancient ship is so terrifying. It didn't suffer any damage in the face of the attacks of the warships. It even destroyed so many of the evil dragon palace's warships. The cultivators on Myriad Star Island who were watching the show shouted in disbelief. The defensive and offensive power of the Xianyuan ancient starry sky ship was simply too terrifying. Soon, only 4 of the dozen ancient warships of the evil dragon palace were left. Moreover, all 4 of them were heavily damaged. Go! Master Longyuan roared furiously. He was so angry that he almost vomited blood. These ancient warships were incomparably precious. Now that so many of them had been destroyed, the losses were huge. Moreover, so many experts had died. He didn't know how to explain this to the 9th evil dragon when he returned. We can't escape. After them. Lin Feng sneered. The godly realm clone in the control room controlled the ancient warship Xianyuan to give chase. Boom, boom, boom. Countless spirit stone cannonballs bombarded the 4 ancient warships that were fleeing. Crack, crack. Another ancient warship was directly destroyed. Suddenly, one of the ancient warships charged toward Lin Feng. It wanted to sink Lin Feng's ancient warship Xianyuan. You overestimate yourself. Lin Feng sneered and activated the Emperor's runes on the ancient warship Xianyuan. The Xianyuan ancient starry sky ship suddenly accelerated and rammed into the incoming ancient ship of war. Crack, crack. The huge ancient warship was directly smashed into pieces. Countless people died tragically. The ancient warship Xianyuan didn't stop. It quickly chased after the last 2 ancient warships. Chapter 1967. One of the last 2 ancient warships was the main ship, and the Longyuan sect was personally overseeing it. The other ship was the captain of Zhang Shushuan's ship. Zhang Shuxian was none other than the whale gang's leader. The experts of the evil dragon palace had been invited by Zhang Shuxian. They had come here full of confidence, but who would have thought that things would turn out like this? Seeing the Xianyuan ancient warship chasing after them, the Longyuan sect shouted, "Split up!" Zhang Shuxian immediately ordered the warship to change course. The ancient warship he was on charged to the right. The Longyuan sect's ancient warship also charged to the left. At this moment, the Xianyuan ancient warship locked onto the warship Zhang Shuxian was on. Asterisk boom boom boom. A dense barrage of spirit stone shells flew out, directly bombarding the ancient warship where Zhang Shuxian is on. The seals on the ancient ship of war began to crack. The next round of cannonballs flew over. The restrictions on the warship were instantly destroyed. Some cultivators managed to escape. However, several rounds of spirit stone cannonballs flew over. All the cultivators who managed to escape, including Zhang Shuxian, were killed by the spirit stone cannonballs. Then, the Xinyuan ancient warship turned around and chased after the main ship. Heavens! Don't tell me they're planning to wipe out the evil dragon palace's fleet? Some cultivators shouted in shock. They might be wiped out. Let's go. Let's go and take a look. Many cultivators soared into the sky and chased after the warship. However, the two ancient warships were very fast, and the cultivators were left behind. Eventually, they lost sight of the two ancient warships. The Xinyuan ancient warship chased for a day and a night. Finally, it caught up to the Longyuan sect's main ship. Lin Feng sneered. Longyuan sect, did you think that you would die at my hands today? Brat, it's too early to boast. It's not certain who will emerge victorious. Moreover, you'll soon know that no one in the world can save you after offending my evil dragon palace. The Longyuan sect's resentful voice rang out. Is that so? Let me send you to hell first. Lin Feng sneered. Boom, boom, boom. The ancient starship Xuanyuan's spirit stone cannon continued to fire spirit stone cannons. All the spiritual stone cannonballs were aimed at the main ship of the Longyuan sect. Bang, bang, bang. Countless energy stone cannonballs bombarded the defensive barrier outside the main ship. Crack, crack. In an instant, the defensive restrictions on the main ship also began to shatter. After seeing this scene, Lin Feng's spirit suddenly shook. Lin Feng, you brat, I want you dead. The Longyuan sect roared with resentment. In the next moment, his tone suddenly changed. He became extremely devout. O noble Lord Evil Dragon, please send down your power and eliminate this lowly being who dares to challenge the evil dragon palace. As the voice of the Longyuan sect fell, immediately after, a loud dragon roar was heard. A small golden dragon flew out of the void. That little golden dragon was not a real dragon, but a magical clone made of some unknown material. The little golden dragon avatar rapidly grew in size. It did not take long for it to become a 1,000-meter-long dragon. That huge dragon actually let out a low and deep voice, lowly ant. You dare to challenge the dignity of my evil dragon palace? Only death awaits you. As the voice faded away, a voice rang out. The huge golden dragon stretched out its huge claw and grabbed at the ancient starship Xinyuan. Evil dragon golden body. Lin Feng's expression sank. The evil dragon golden body was similar to an avatar, but it was not an avatar. The evil dragon golden body was an avatar made of precious materials that was similar to a magic treasure. However, through summoning, the ninth evil dragon could sense the calling. He could send down a portion of his power from a great distance. This portion of his power would enter the evil dragon golden body. The evil dragon golden body could display a portion of the ninth evil dragon's power. Just like now. Boom, boom, boom. A dense barrage of spirit stone cannons flew toward the golden body of the evil dragon. The evil dragon golden body's huge tail swept through the void. The surrounding void began to distort. The distorted space produced a powerful rebounding force. The spiritual stone cannonballs bounced back one after another. Bang, bang, bang. Next, the spiritual stone cannonballs bombarded the ancient starship Xinyuan. Although they could not destroy the ancient starship Xuanyuan's restriction, the ancient starship Xinyuan was still blown away by the explosion of the spiritual stone cannonballs. At the same time, the evil dragon golden body's huge dragon claw slammed into the defensive restriction outside the ancient starship Xinyuan. The ancient starship Xinyuan trembled violently. Lin Feng's expression was gloomy. He activated his Emperor runes. A total of 9 Emperor runes appeared. These 9 Emperor runes enveloped the ancient starship Xinyuan. Activating 9 Emperor runes at once was Lin Feng's limit. After activating the 9 Emperor runes, the ancient starship Xuanyuan's speed reached the limit and slammed into the evil dragon golden body. Bang! the ancient starship Xianyuan collided with the evil dragon Golden Body. The evil dragon Golden Body's huge body was sent flying. "Lowly creature, you've angered me," the evil dragon Golden Body roared furiously. Next, the evil dragon Golden Body's huge body began to spiral. Mysterious and ancient voices rang out one after another. It was an incantation. Divine ability incantation. Not good. It's a draconic divine ability. Lin Feng's expression changed slightly. The draconic divine ability was the most powerful technique the Dragon Clan possessed. Any draconic divine ability could be said to be capable of destroying heaven and earth. Seeing that the evil dragon Golden Body was about to cast a draconic divine ability, Lin Feng did not dare to hesitate. He hurriedly controlled the ancient starship Xianyuan to crash into the evil dragon Golden Body again. However, it was too late. The evil dragon Golden Body's draconic divine ability had already formed. A starry river world appeared in the sky. The starry river world was filled with stars. Suddenly, stars began to fall one after another. They smashed towards the ancient starship Xianyuan. "Let's go. This kind of dragon incantation is very terrifying. Don't wait for those stars to fall down. Once all of them fall down, it'll be very difficult to escape. Also, this golden body of the evil dragon definitely has a lot of terrifying methods. We can't fight to the death with it." The demon lord's voice resounded in Lin Feng's mind. Lin Feng's body shook. He did not dare to hesitate. He hurriedly controlled the ancient starship Xianyuan to rush into the distance. The ancient starship Xianyuan jumped through the starry river and rushed out dozens of li in an instant. It rushed out of the range of the evil dragon Golden Body's draconic divine ability and then rushed into the distance. The evil dragon Golden Body roared and chased after the ancient starship Xianyuan. However, it was unable to catch up to the ancient starship Xianyuan. The evil dragon Golden Body returned to the main starship after failing to catch up. It then landed in the hands of the Dragon Origin sect. Author's note: I'm not feeling well. Chapter 1968. The ancient desolate sea was located in between the returning ruined sea and the South Pole ice field. Due to the fact that it was a dangerous place where the sea beasts gathered, it was considered an ungoverned land. Although there were many forces here, most of them were established by rogue cultivators. They were unable to reach the scale of the evil Dragon Palace or the Fusang Island. Hence, it was easier to establish a force here. Ancient Desolate Sea, Dragon Gate Island. Lin Feng spent a huge sum of money to invite the Herculean Sea Devils to help him build the palace. The Herculean Sea Devils moved huge mountains and flattened them before building the palace. In a month's time, the Dragon Gate Island was filled with immortal mountains and palaces. The Dragon Gate Island was originally an uninhabited island. Lin Feng named it. After the Herculean Sea Devils finished building the palace, Lin Feng began to lay out a grand formation to protect the entire Dragon Gate Island. Dragon Gate. It had the meaning of a carp leaping over the Dragon Gate. When he was in the Azure Dragon Institute, Lin Feng had established a force called the Dragon Gate. Many students joined back then, and the Dragon Gate became one of the strongest student organizations in the Azure Dragon Institute. Many years had passed since then. Lin Feng once again used the name Dragon Gate. Lin Feng was looking forward to this new force as well as reminiscing about the past. The Dragon Gate was officially established, but there weren't many people. There were about 1,100 cultivators. Other than Lin Feng, Butterfly and Wanyan Yang had the highest cultivation. There were about 100 quasi-heavenly gods. There were about 1,000 true God realm cultivators. Although there weren't many of them, it was still a powerful force. News of the Dragon Gate's establishment spread throughout the ancient desolate sea. It was impossible for no new force to be completely unknown. 400 to 500 cultivators arrived at the Dragon Gate Island. They were arrogant and wanted to barge into the Dragon Gate Island. However, they were stopped by the restrictions and started cursing outside. The overseas world was an incomparably cruel world. Wars between different forces often occurred. It was either you die or I live. This was one of the main reasons why the slave market in the overseas world was so prosperous. Because of the war between the different forces, Many of the defeated side were captured and enslaved. Many of the forces that fought against each other didn't have any grudges against each other. It was purely for the sake of benefits. This law of survival was like the big fish in the ocean eating the small fish, and the small fish eating the shrimps. The bigger forces would annex the smaller forces to gain enough wealth and improve their own cultivation. This law of survival had long become an inherent pattern in the overseas world. Therefore, it was very normal for different forces to kill each other in the overseas world. The cultivators who came to Dragon Gate Island came from a place called Fire Scorpion Island. The island master of Fire Scorpion Island, Crimson Fire Scorpion, was a fire scorpion that had cultivated his Tao. The Flame Scorpion gathered a group of people and established the Flame Scorpion Island. Fire Scorpion Island had gradually developed and expanded, and its current strength was no longer what it had been in the past. Some time ago, when Lin Feng invited the Herculean sea demons to construct the Immortal Mountain Palace, Fire Scorpion Island had already learned of this matter. However, Fire Scorpion Island had never taken action. Later, he found out that the Dragon Gate only had a little more than 1,000 people, and there were many old, weak, women, and children among them. He had evil intentions and sent people to investigate. If they found out that the Dragon Gate wasn't strong, they would naturally be in danger of being exterminated. Get out of Dragon Gate Island. Otherwise, kill without mercy. Wang Yinyang led a group of people out and shouted coldly. Lin Feng had established a Dragon Gate army, and Wang Yinyang was now the commander. A group of slaves. How dare you be so impudent? A triangular-eyed cultivator sneered. Slaves had a slave mark on their necks that couldn't be removed. It was because of the slave mark that these people from Fire Scorpion Island could tell that Wang Yinyang and the rest were slaves with a single glance. Wang Yinyang and the rest might be slaves, but ever since they followed Lin Feng, they realized that Lin Feng had never treated them as slaves. This made Wang Yinyang and the rest feel that they had already lost their dignity. They believed that as long as they were loyal and devoted, they would soon be free of their slave status. Now that they heard the people from Fire Scorpion Island mocking them as slaves, many of their faces turned gloomy. Wang Yinyang coldly swept his gaze over the cultivators from Fire Scorpion Island. He had already received Lin Feng's order to kill all the cultivators who had come with evil intentions. He didn't need to show mercy and kill all of them. The Dragon Gate had just been established, and it was time for them to establish their prestige. If they were bullied at this time and swallowed their anger, in that case, all the forces would think that the Dragon Gate was a force that could be bullied easily. By then, how would the Dragon Gate survive? Moreover, Lin Feng wasn't someone who would not retaliate after being bullied. Attack! Wang Yinyang waved his hand. Kill! The people from the Dragon Gate army took out all kinds of weapons and charged towards the group of experts from Fire Scorpion Island. The cultivators from the Dragon Gate army were now well equipped. As the commander, Wang Yinyang had received a Heaven God 6 set, and Lin Feng had also rewarded him with a giant divine weapon-level god-slaying axe. The rest of the cultivators from the Dragon Gate army had received 3 Heaven God weapons as rewards. As these people were Lin Feng's first batch of subordinates, their equipment was naturally the best. Such elite equipment. In addition, Wang Yinyang had led more than 200 people this time. Although the other party had 400 to 500 people, they were no match for the cultivators from the Dragon Gate army. Wang Yinyang, a Heaven God realm expert, didn't even make a move. The cultivators from Fire Scorpion Island were defeated. In the end, only a few dozen of them managed to escape. The rest were killed and the corpses were thrown into the sea outside Dragon Gate Island by Wang Yinyang and the rest to feed the tiger sharks. During this period of time, countless people had their eyes on the Dragon Gate Island. Therefore, many forces had set up secret sentries around Dragon Gate Island. Therefore, the news of this battle spread very quickly. The cultivators from Fire Scorpion Island were powerful, but they suffered heavy losses. This incident caused quite a stir. After the remaining cultivators from Fire Scorpion Island returned to Fire Scorpion Island, they reported the whole story to Qi Lian Fire Scorpion. Qi Lian Fire Scorpion was a skinny man in a black robe. His eyes flickered with a sinister gaze from time to time. Ordinary cultivators from the Dragon Gate are equipped with at least 3 divine weapons. This Dragon Gate is actually so rich? Qi Lian Fire Scorpion's eyes instantly revealed a deep look of greed. Yes, Island Lord. If the other party wasn't well equipped, how could we have suffered such a crushing defeat? A group of cultivators from Fire Scorpion Island said unwillingly. They didn't think that they were any weaker than the cultivators from the Dragon Gate. The only difference was the difference in equipment. Gather the warships. I will personally go and sink Dragon Gate Island, capture their island lord, and force him to hand over all his wealth. Qi Lian Fire Scorpion let out a sinister laugh. Yes, Island Lord. I will pass down the order now. Chapter 1969. The news of the Dragon Gate Island's cultivators defeating the Fire Scorpion Island's cultivators spread like wildfire. However, the Dragon Gate Island was very peaceful. The Dragon Gate Island's cultivators had a huge amount of cultivation resources to cultivate. Therefore, these cultivators usually seize the time to cultivate and raise their cultivation as much as possible. The afternoon sun was very warm. The four sacred birds were taking a leisurely stroll, while Bibi and the dragon rabbit were running around happily. Lin Feng saw a few beautiful figures in the distance. Naza, Inya, and the others were gathered together and chatting. He didn't know what they were talking about, but laughter could be heard from time to time. Inya and the others had become more cheerful. Clearly, after becoming Lin Feng's maidservants, the five of them had become happier. Master, someone is requesting an audience. A guard quickly flew over and reported. Who is it? Lin Feng asked. It's said to be someone from the Celestial Sacred Palace. The guard said. Lin Feng had never heard of the Celestial Sacred Palace before. He guessed that it was a faction in the ancient Desolate Sea region. Bring them to the guest hall, Lin Feng said. Yes. The guard nodded and left. Lin Feng paused for a moment before getting up and heading to the guest hall. When he arrived at the guest hall, he saw a beautiful woman sitting there. Behind the beautiful woman, there were two younger and more beautiful women. I've kept you waiting, fellow Taoist. I'm Lin Feng, the Dragon Gate sect leader. How should I address you? Lin Feng said with a smile. The beautiful woman stood up and bowed slightly. I'm the Celestial Sacred Palace's Grand Elder, Mu Ruoqing. These two are my disciples, Lu Wuxin and Chu Linghan. Greetings, sect leader. Lu Wuxin and Chu Linghan greeted Lin Feng. Fairies, there's no need to be so polite. Lin Feng smiled. After everyone was seated, Lin Feng said with a smile, the Celestial Sacred Palace is one of the 32 major factions in the ancient Desolate Sea Region Alliance. It's located in the southwest of the Dragon Gate Island. It's about half a month's journey. Some time ago, I heard that Longmen Island was established, so I came here to congratulate you. Lin Feng replied with a smile. Many thanks for Dao Friend Mu's good intentions. The Dragon Gate Island is a rising force. So, we'll have to rely on dear friend Mu in the future. Mu Ruoqing said, I don't dare to rely on you. We can communicate more in the future. After chatting for more than 2 hours, Lin Feng gained a detailed understanding of the power structure of the ancient Desolate Sea region from Mu Ruoqing. He then arranged for Mu Ruoqing and her two disciples to rest. Master, this person was also called Lin Feng. Could he be the same person as that Lin Feng who was the talk of the town a while ago? Lu Wuxin said. Mu Ruoqing nodded and said, it's very likely to be the same person. Chu Linghan said, this guy is wanted by the Supreme Immortal Sect, Evil Dragon Palace, Fusang Island, and other forces. To think that he can still live so freely. It's truly unbelievable. This person is not simple. Mu Ruoqing narrowed her phoenix eyes and said, Mu Ruoqing and her two disciples stayed on the Dragon Gate Island for 3 days before leaving. The Celestial Sage Palace that Mu Ruoqing was in was also the first cultivator to express goodwill to the Dragon Gate Island. Before leaving, Mu Ruoqing reminded Lin Feng to pay attention to the Fire Scorpion Island. The Fire Scorpion Island had suffered a great loss previously, so they would not let it go easily. Lin Feng thanked Mu Ruoqing for her reminder. After Mu Ruoqing left, the Dragon Gate Island became quiet again. However, whether it was the people of the Dragon Gate Island or the spies outside, everyone knew that this was the calm before the storm. The Fire Scorpion Island would definitely send an army over. When that time came, a great battle would definitely break out. Taking advantage of this free time, Lin Feng planned to improve his cultivation. Ever since he had obtained the 5 human cauldrons, Lin Feng had never dual cultivated with them. However, it was only a matter of time. The water spirit constitution, the ice spirit constitution, and the Een spirit constitution were superb dual cultivation constitutions. It was very rare. After so many years, Lin Feng had been to countless places. He had seen who knows how many people. However, before these 5 women, he had only seen one superb human cauldron, and that was by Ying. From this, it could be seen how rare this kind of superb human cauldron was. The demon race female slave Mo Wuyo was sexy and enchanting. The demon race female slave Su'er was charming and moving. The human race female slave Yu Zixin was pure and lovely, while Yu Liuji was delicate and cute. The angel race female slave Inya was holy and otherworldly. The 5 of them each had their own merits, but they were all superb beauties. However, all women with the human cauldron physique had excellent looks. The rarer the physique, the more beautiful the appearance. Therefore, women with the water spirit constitution, the ice spirit constitution, and the Een spirit constitution all had peerless beauty. All of them could be said to be superb. When the 5 women learned that they were going to dual cultivate with Lin Feng at night, even though they were already mentally prepared, they could not help but feel incomparably shy. Of course, they did not reject Lin Feng. During this period of time with Lin Feng had never treated them as slaves. They originally thought that their days would fall into hell. Who would have thought? They had actually come to heaven. When the 5 women chatted in private, they were even secretly glad that Lin Feng had won the human cauldron physique. If it had been won by someone else, their fate would have been very tragic. That night, lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. A storm was about to arrive. The weather at sea was unpredictable. Therefore, this kind of weather did not make people feel that there was anything strange about it. After a night, Lin Feng's cultivation had completed a breakthrough, directly breaking through from the 7th level of the Divine Fire Realm to the 10th level of the Divine Fire Realm. In the end, he stopped at the mid-stage of the 10th level of the Divine Fire Realm. One had to know that with Lin Feng's accumulation, it was very difficult to break through. Therefore, this time, he broke through 3 levels in a row. This made Lin Feng surprised and happy. These 3 physiques are indeed extraordinary. The 3 superb human cauldrons of the cultivation world. The effect of increasing one's cultivation is really astonishing. My accumulation is too strong, so breaking through is difficult, but I still broke through 3 levels. If it were someone else, they would have easily broken through to the true God realm and soared into the sky, right? Lin Feng could not help but mutter to himself. At the same time, 50 huge ancient warships were heading towards the Dragon Gate Island at high speed. How much longer until we reach the Dragon Gate Island? Crimson Fire Scorpion asked. Island Lord, we only need 3 days to reach the Dragon Gate Island. An elder from the Fire Scorpion Island replied. Crimson Fire Scorpion nodded. After breaking through, Lin Feng was in a good mood. The sun was already high up in the sky. Lin Feng went to the training ground. Butterfly was in charge of training assassins here. Lin Feng named Butterfly's assassin organization Purgatory. Lin Feng gave the 300 people to die so she could train them. Such an assassin organization was often very useful. Many major factions would nurture their own Death Sworn. Lin Feng's assassin organization would be even stronger than the Death Sworn. Their methods would also be more bizarre. Rise. Lin Feng waved his hand. After leaving the training ground, Wan and Yang came to visit Lin Feng. Master, we discovered a deep-sea devil cave in the sea not far away. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.